Hello, my friends. We are live once again. This is a Saturday show that I've been doing on Revolutionary Blackout since the start of this year, and this is probably going to be the funnest I have done. Let me fix the audio real quick. So this is a special stream. I like to call it. This is my boy Kobe. I knew him for a while. This is our birthday weekend. This is his birthday.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Kobe.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to Revolutionary Blackout. You was on formerly known as Fred Hampton Leftist, but now welcome to Revolutionary Blackout. We are doing big.
And your birthday's tomorrow, right? That's what you said?
Yeah. Nice. Turn 31. Still feel like a beast though.
I'm turning 25 and I feel old.
I felt old during especially last year, because like now I've been training again, because I've been fucking training martial arts for a very long time, but I took like 2-3 years off.
Do you do UFC fights? Like, do you actually fight?
I had a few amateur fights. I'm 2-1 as an amateur. But then I couldn't really dedicate to it. And my one loss, I won my first 2 fights. Then my loss came. I lost by points because I got tired. Because he hit me with a body shot, and I got tired, and I lost. I became sloppy and I lost on points because of that. That's because, especially that fight, I was not training the way I should have because I was working.
What's the pay like doing amateur UFC fighting? Like, I've heard a lot about UFC professional fighting not being great, but
you get paid based on ticket sales. Like I remember I got fight at night, my first fight, so I got like $500 for that. And it was like, it technically was under the table, so I shouldn't even be saying anything because you're not supposed to get paid as an amateur. So I might go pro one day because I actually need the money. Like I'm training Muay Thai now. I've been training and I'm a beast. I've been doing this for like 15 years now. I might go pro just so I can take some money, to be honest. And I'm pretty damn good. But you say you're 21?
25.
25. Okay, Harry. He's 25, Harry. God damn it. I'm just playing. 31.
But spark up so we can
celebrate. Yeah. So we already know we getting demonetized this stream. You guys see the title of the video. We got some important topics to talk about. Yes. I don't know if I've seen anyone cover this. Maybe a smaller channel I don't have on my radar. But Jim Crow Joe is at it again. Like,
what now?
I wrote an article. My last op-ed was in October. I need to get back on it. So I wrote about how our worst fears of a Biden administration has been realized. So if you watch my old content, you read my old tweets, I warned people about Jim Crow Joe and how he sworn to expand the police state more than Donald Trump did, and he has. And we did get to the story a little bit later on, but the prison industrial complex is booming under Joe Biden. And
I remember when he was running, he would be like, "Oh no, like I'm not the defund the police candidate. Trump is the defund the police candidate. I want to give more money to the police. What's everybody talking about?" And this was during the Black Lives Matter movement, when I had gone from, because I've always been my whole life somebody who thought, police are too violent. The carceral state like fucks people up. It doesn't rehabilitate people. But then seeing these activists and these protesters talk about, no, abolish the police, defund the police. Like, we don't need these violent state institutions. We need rehabilitation. We need community. And so at the same moment where I'm having my realization of, oh crap, these people are right. Like, we don't need police and prisons. We need a more healing system. And then to hear Democrats like Joe Biden to be saying the opposite at the exact same time, I mean, it blew my mind.
Bro, it's even worse than that. People always wonder why I go after Democrats so much. So Joe Biden invited George Floyd to the White House just to expand the prison industrial complex that killed him more. How is that? And I'm generally asking anyone who's watching, how is that not worse than anything the Republicans do? I'm dead honest. Because
the crazy thing is, it's exactly like what the Republicans do. It's like they both do those same things.
Well, the Republicans, they'll wear the blue stripe and tell you that they're like, fuck you. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But they will put Black Lives Matter. They will invite George Floyd's family to the White House and then expand the forces of oppression that killed the man. That's worse than Republicans, than what they do. I'm not saying they both represent the same kind of evil, but when it comes to like siphoning revolutionary spirit and harming our community, man,
it reminds me of that Malcolm X quote where it was like, the wolf comes at you straight. You kind of see what they're doing. It's no tricks to it. Like the conservatives just straight on attacking you. You know what the conservative stands for. You don't agree with it. But the liberal will pretend to be on your side will say all of the right things. You'll think that they're your ally and that everything's great. And then they'll go ahead and do the exact same things like Republicans. Like, we still have the concentration camps for migrant children at the borders. Like, there's still separation of families happening. Like, all these things, we could talk about all of this. It's just
we didn't get to the weeds, Kobe. That's why this was a long time coming. And just like you, I did a lot of learning, and I co-founded 10 Demands. And Zoya and Art, they taught me a lot. Like, I'll help, and I feel like I'm one of the leading voices. I don't see any people putting content against the police state more than me. I'm gonna be straight up honest. It's because of people like Zoya and Art. They actually taught me a lot. We had meetings where we were talking about 10 Demands. And while we was brainstorming these demands, they would teach me. I'm like, oh fuck, that's crazy. But anyway, with that said, I had to hype her up before she joined the stream. My good friend Zoya, she's a co-founder of 10 Demands with me. You guys seen her before on the show. We're not gonna see her face today though. We don't respect her privacy. But how you doing, Zoya?
Hi, how are you?
Welcome to the show. I'm glad
long time no see, technically.
I'm so glad to be joining you guys so we can discuss some of the Biden administration failures. But I wanted to share a quote I just read recently in regards
to... I love when Zoya comes prepared with quotes. I love it. Go ahead.
The powerful want a society based on punishment because a society based on care would render them obsolete.
I saw that earlier.
I love that quote. I love that quote. Say it again, please.
The powerful want a society based on punishment because a society based on care would render them obsolete.
Man, you could serial advocates better start checking yourself, especially if you think you're class conscious. Like, you guys realize our state steals way more money from the working class under the guise of law enforcement than your criminals do, right?
Yeah, civil asset forfeiture is higher than burglary. I've seen that. So
the right-wing populists who had the blue stripe on, how can you be a populist when you're going against the working class? When you sided with the state that is siphoning wealth from the class you say you're conscious with. So you guys understand. That's why I have to put back against the populists because the right-wing populists, because I have seen their rhetoric recently. I've seen them becoming big government bootlickers, and then they say, "Oh, why don't you want to join with me? Why don't you have right-wing populists on your show? Why don't you want to unite with them?" Once you completely renounce the state, and when I'm talking about the police as well, the military, and we're gonna get into why you should do that. Once you do that, then I'll be interested, right? Then I'll be interested in that.
I mean, that's the irony of, like, I agree with a lot of people when they criticize certain vaccine mandates, right? They don't want the state to be firing them. They don't want the state to be punishing them. They see these videos of police attacking anti-vaxxers at protests around the world, and they react, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But then, like you were saying, a lot of those same people are the ones who want to give more money to the police, who want to give more money to the military. So it's like, is your problem really the state violence, the state telling you what to do? Or is it just you don't like that one thing that they're telling you to do?
See, if you got thick skin, then I guess you can work with me, because I'm not one to accept like these ideological inconsistencies. If I call out AOC and the squad, if I call out Democrats for their inconsistencies, why would I give right-wing populists away? Look, because people argue me like, why you always talk shit about them? Because I'm not giving them a pass either. Because I agree with you on the issues of mandates, right? So if you anti-authoritarian in that instance, but then you saying stupid shit like Kim Iverson, where she was like, I'll vote for a Republican though. So you vote for the party that supports the Patriot Act, that supports the drug war, and you think you're anti-imperialist? You see, that's the stupid shit I can't tolerate.
And that bill that just recently got put in Congress to sanction Russia over the situation in Ukraine, and it was bipartisan. You know, that's Democrats and Republicans that agree with that. Every military budget ever, Democrats and Republicans.
You don't understand, Kobe. The progressives, they have progressive sanctions. It's progressive sanctions. It's progressive imperialism. That's what they do, right?
I mean, that's the irony to me. Like when it comes to sanctions, because sometimes, like you're saying, sometimes the reason they say they're putting the sanction in place is something that we'll agree is like a human rights abuse. Like, this country's treating women bad. This country's doing this to people. But then the sanctions themselves don't end that abuse and just end up putting that country deeper and deeper into poverty. And it doesn't change anything. And we're often doing the same exact abuses here, or Saudi Arabia is, or whoever our, alliance is. They'll be doing the same human rights abuse. And it just makes everything worse, it seems like. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, well said, Kobe. I want to take this time to get into the story as well. I think we're about 10 minutes in, because we're gonna touch on that here very soon. I know you had an hour. I want to make sure you stay around for the AOC story though,
Yes.
because I want to. We'll start out with Biden, because that's the lead story. But I also want to talk about the AOC video, because right now the tweet that I sent out, a lot of AOC fans are like freaking out because their job is to defend her, and I'm gonna explain why their defense of her is wrong.
Which video is this? Is this the one from yesterday on the situation in Ukraine and Russia? Or
This is the interview. I don't know if you saw the interview. She recently gave an interview where she talked about this. Where it was a word salad of giving pretty much playing defense for the Biden administration, and it's clear when you listen to her that she has no idea. And I'm still learning, and I'm just a guy, not a congressperson, by the way. But I'm still learning about the stuff. But I know she sounds like she don't know the absolute basics of this conflict. And it's the same thing when she was talking about Cuba, when she's talking about Israel, Palestine. And I know she's smarter than that. So what are you doing? She graduated with like international relations major, right? Something like that.
Did she?
Like in Boston U or some shit like that. So she literally studied international relations in some form. I don't know exactly what they call the degree. So when I hear AOC talk about this shit, and I know for a fucking fact she's smarter than me. No, do not believe for one second that I'm fucking smart than AOC, right? So when I see her like just be horrible on answering foreign policy, I'm like, all right, you're being dumb on purpose. Like,
that's what I want. Sometimes I'm confused as to whether it's like, does she genuinely agree with how the Biden administration is handling it? Or is it that she, like a lot of progressive Democrats feel they need to, because they are Democrats, they defend what the Democratic Party does, what the president does, and things like that. Because she'll say, oh, yeah, I have concerns about the military-industrial complex. There's something to do with that there. But I like how Biden's being diplomatic and how he's handling it. I've seen the interview you're talking about. And it's like, but is it diplomatic for him to send lethal aid? Is it diplomatic for him to raise the tensions of war to even the point where the president of Ukraine is saying, hey, guys, calm down, like you're making things worse? And so it's like, but there's no critique of that in that interview.
Fuck it, we doing it now. We do it. We start with that segment.
We're too into it.
Yeah, we into it now. So, especially now I got Kobe. I definitely gotta make sure I cover this, because if you guys don't know, Kobe, based on what I've seen, I like his foreign policy. You talk a lot about Julian Assange, and we actually got an update. Like from the Biden administration, they're pretty much just like no comment. Anyway, it's not too much of a update, but it's a pretty big tell, I should say. But I think we dive into the AOC thing first. And then we do Biden. Zoe, any thoughts? All right, I want to get you in here, Zoe, in here as well.
I agree with you guys. Right now, my thought was just on the fact that both of you are blazing, and that I should probably roll one up too.
Yeah, get on the same wavelength.
This is my birthday stream. I already know this stream is gonna be demonetized. So if you guys want to show love, hit me and Kobe's Cashapp. That's the best thing you do, because I already know this stream will get demonetized, because there's no way I'm gonna do my birthday weekend stream sober. So there's that.
So do they demonetize you for smoking on the stream? Is that a thing?
I've been told they do that, but it's bullshit, because like, bro, you had Joe Rogan who toasts up on the show all the time.
That's what I was thinking.
Why the fuck I can't do it? But anyway, like, I don't want to promote it. I just do it because I have like 100 people watch me now, and I do it to ease my anxiety. I'm not fucking advertising it.
Yes, we're not endorsing smoking the devil's lettuce here, folks. Make your own personal medical decisions at home.
Yeah, I don't do it to be cool. I literally don't do it to be cool. I'm like, guys, I'm not a natural public speaker, so I do this to ease my anxiety. That's literally why I don't like doing this sober. But anyway, I guess let's get back on AOC.
Let's watch the video.
Enjoy it, relax, have some fun. Do what you gotta do. You know what I mean? So when I talk about the squad, AOC with Max Blumenthal, for example, my criticism of them is they are failures as leftist leaders. And that's something that a lot of people don't really understand. And a lot of people just, you always got these unrealistic expectations. Like, no, I explained it in my video with Neil Turner. I want more of like a Malcolm X style. Like, I'm tired of this happy-go-lucky bullshit. And especially in this era where and we're gonna talk about the story very soon. Joe Biden expanded the military-industrial complex. When you see the Democratic Party are the party of the police state, you cannot play defense for them. And I'm not interested in that as a leftist leader at all.
not only that, but AOC and the squad are gaslighting us. The things they are saying are gaslighting. When she started gaslighting, that is when she lost me, because that is insulting. She is funded by people's grocery money. We were told if we get candidates in that aren't funded by corporate interests, that they would act in our interests. And I do not feel represented by her. I do not need her to be telling me that Biden is doing a great job.
Well, you sound pretty entitled. How dare you? How dare you demand someone you donated to? Well, I'm not gonna assume you did, but how dare you? How dare you assume that a politician who took working class donations for to advocate for the people? That's childish. That's what AOC fans say. You're childish.
But it just reminds me, like, the reason I'm so critical of it and what made me like even more aware of it is like I've been at jobs where, you know, how we all talk among us workers, how we talk about management, how we talk about the decisions that they make. And then, you know, the difference between how we talk behind the scenes and how you're talking in front of the scenes, how a lot of people do, how they don't speak up about the concerns that people have about things. I saw that at SGA in college. Like, you see it everywhere in society. And it's like, you see this also in politics where they claim to say they support Medicare for all, but then they support Nancy Pelosi instead of Medicare for all when the movement's saying we want Medicare for all now during a pandemic. Like, it's like they're either they really believe all of the things that they're saying or they're being politicians. And I suspect it's a combination of both of those things.
I really believe they was nefarious when they just straight up abandoned the grassroots. So it's like, this is this is what they don't understand. I hear the people who like mocked forced to vote, people who mocked the March for Medicare for All. They say, "Oh, you expect the progressive people in Congress to get you Medicare for all?" No, my expectation is for you to at least stand in solidarity with the outside game, because the people who have the idea of taking over the Democratic Party, they explain the inside-outside game. This is a strategy I used to endorse. This is why I supported Bernie. Now I have a different way of thinking, right? But back then, if you think about the inside-outside game, I understand it very well. The idea if you have a strong working class outside game that put pressure on the establishment. But the point of the inside-outside game is that the inside game works in coordination with the outside game. So if you're going to endorse the inside-outside game strategy, like the Justice Democrats pretended they support, how does it make sense for you not to show up for marches for Medicare for all? How does it make sense for you to stay silent on Julian Assange? How does it make sense for you to ignore anti-war protests and actions that happen? They completely abandon the outside game. So the people who are like, why you are criticizing AOC? You don't understand AOC's job and the power structure that they are operating on now. Their job is to siphon otherwise anti-establishment mindset and siphon it back into the capitalist imperialist Democratic Party.
And
I mean, to me,
sorry, Kobe.
Go ahead, Kobe, right after her.
Your rhetoric should not change from campaigning to when you're in power. That is a thing that's happening in real time, and people are having some cognitive dissonance when they just simply don't acknowledge that. AOC campaigned on, we can have these things now. We don't have to wait. And the other thing, I didn't expect that we would get a few progressive wins and suddenly that's it. We get every policy that we wanted. But I did expect them to expose the corruption that's on the inside. And instead, they're running cover for it.
I mean, that's how, for me, like, I was also a supporter of the inside-outside game, like you said, Nick. Like, in 2016, I voted for Bernie. I actually ended up voting Green Party in the general election because I was so alienated at the time. But then Bernie was running again in 2020, and I thought to myself, I'll support both, right? I'll support the Green Party and third parties while they run on the outside, and I'll try to support the inside while they do what they say is subversively, you know, shaking it up. But then after 2020, you know, seeing how they started supporting Pelosi after protesting at her office at the beginning of AOC's term in Congress, and how us on the outside were in the Green Party were saying, hey, can you guys talk about ranked choice voting more? Hey, can you guys like at least acknowledge the Green Party's concerns about the voting rights bills? Like, can you give us a voice in Congress for these poison pills in the bills? And to see that we're basically just kind of ignored in our concerns, you know, we don't see much outspokenness, like you said, about Assange. They deferred a leadership on things like Venezuelan sanctions and the situation in Venezuela entirely.
AOC follows Juan Guaido. Go ahead. I just want to add that part.
Mm-hmm.
So
but
not
in
only
general,
like her, she's a fan apparently. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's when I made my turn, and especially defund the police in what was it, March of the beginning of the year, of the beginning of Biden's presidency, when they gave more money to Capitol Police, and I think it passed by like one vote, right? Like AOC could have been the vote who voted against it and made it so that Kamala had to be the tie-breaking vote, but that didn't happen. They supported, or she abstained.
Kobe, that's when they went from, I was mildly criticizing, that is the exact moment, and anyone who watched our channel, formerly known as FHL, that is the you can see the change. That's when I went from mildly criticism of Bernie and AOC in the squad. Well, I would say AOC in the squad. I went from mildly, that was like, all right, I'm going after y'all. Like that was beyond the pale. Anyone who defends that, you're a joke. Like that was a war against my people. That was the progressive movement selling us out to the police state. You guys see the title of this video. We're gonna get to the lead here soon. And me and Zoya got a lot of great things we're gonna break down for you today. I'm gonna get to the story just for time's sake. But our next story, I'm gonna explain to you why the progressive siding with the police state over us is such a tremendous backstab, especially to all the brown and black people who got you guys elected, especially them. If you sold out the whole working class, don't get it twisted, but you especially shipped that motherfucker to us, especially. But anyway, let me get to the AOC clip, because I think we prefaced the story long enough. I do want to give a shout out to Human Rights Watcher. Is that what he calls himself? Yeah, Human Rights Watcher. Okay, I just want to make sure I get it right. He said progressive politicians like AOC would tweet out anti-war platitudes every so often, but then go on TV and assert that the Biden administration is well within their rights to speak. You got this. She's gonna say it. You guys gonna see. Hold on, let me fix the audio. I'm getting better at this. I can spot my mistakes as soon as I make it. I'm gonna get to the super chat later. I apologize if I missed some. I know I missed some last time. I apologize for all those who I missed. I'm trying to get better at that too. So, 1 second, guys.
Screenception.
What is happening between Russia and Ukraine is of profound concern. And the Biden administration is well within their right to seek a diplomatic resolution to this issue, one that does not hurt the Ukrainian people, but allows them to exercise their right to self-determination and to continue to be a self-determined nation. And so I believe that the Biden administration is well within their right to counter Russia's aggression diplomatically.
I mean, to me, it's just like,
I'll pass it right to you, Kobe. But that's someone who's had no idea about the history of the conflict, what's going on in the region. That's someone who's completely clueless. But go ahead, Kobe. I want you to finish.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like the way that she started it off, originally saying, like, I agree with Biden going with this diplomatic resolution to the situation. And like we said earlier, that's no critique of the lethal aid, no critique of NATO. You know, the U.S. and Russia, when they negotiated in the 90s, I think we told Russia we won't move NATO any closer east. You know, the left has been saying for a while they haven't liked NATO because it's just this competing military bloc that's just kind of like aggressively antagonizing other countries. Like in DC this week, there was a protest outside of the White House, you know, to disband NATO entirely. You know, Black Alliance for Peace was there protesting because NATO is just, it's warmongering in a way. They say it's a securities alliance. They say it's defensive, but we've seen situations like in Libya with Gaddafi. You know, in general, it's just, there's no critique of militarism at all in AOC's statement there, when there has been elements of militarism going on in this situation.
Yeah, I had to fix something with my computer real quick. But yeah, that's exactly what AOC fans don't get. Because maybe I shouldn't, because I don't want to give them attention. But I almost want to show the response that AOC fans had to my tweet, where they was like, "Oh my God, you guys are misrepresenting what you said." It's not only about what she said; it's about what she didn't say. You morons! You guys are weak on imperialism. A lot of the people who got mad at me, I saw they watched Sam Cedar. Sam Cedar, the same guy when he debated with Jackson Hinker. Like, I don't care. That was his message on imperialism. And the AOC fans who are defending her for this, that's essentially their reaction. I don't care about the history of this conflict. I don't care about what Joe Biden is doing. I don't care about the context behind what AOC is saying. Because when she said that Biden has the right to do he is literally sending Ukrainian arms to neo-Nazis. So I want to show you guys this, and I'll pass it right back to the panel. Check this out. This is my tweet, and a lot of people they are getting nervous because I tweeted not too long ago over 1K already, because people are getting exposed to the fact that AOC and the squad are essentially fucking neocons. And when you look at the way they support sanctions, they total line with the Biden administration. So when she says Biden is well within his right, and you see that he's arming neo-Nazis, you have the Ukrainian state that's literally telling Biden to calm the fuck down. Look, you guys understand that there's a deadlock in Ukraine right now. That's what, and this is what the United States media would never tell you. There was never a chance of Russia invading Ukraine. You had the entire Russian side like, yo, we not. What are you talking about? We're not about to invade. They like chill, and then you had the U.S. like, oh my God, Russia's going crazy. We gotta send forces in, and you even have people on Ukraine on their side like, what are you doing? You have people in NATO. You have Germany.
I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because when they talk about the conflict in those terms, as if, aggression is inevitable, the war is inevitable, we need to take this threat seriously, we need to rise up. Like, they're basically antagonizing the war itself. If the war wasn't going to happen, it's going to happen with how you're freaking everybody out and talking about it. Then you're scaring Russia. Then you're scaring people in Ukraine. You're scaring everybody everywhere. And what happens when they're scared? Oh, I want security. So they give more money to military and police and militarism and things like that. Whereas what they should be doing, like she's talked about self-determination in that statement. And so on one hand, you have Ukraine who wants the self-determination to be part of NATO, or some people in Ukraine want to be part of NATO. Then you have other people in the eastern part of Ukraine who want the self-determination to be their own independent country. There's movements like that. And so it's a complicated conversation. There needs to be negotiations between those two different points of view. But instead, what we see in the media, most people don't even know that there's Donetsk and Luhansk and Crimea. They don't know how people in those regions think about things. They don't know how the Eastern Ukrainians think differently than Western Ukrainians. They don't know the semantic, like the actual, what people on the ground think about the conflict. All we're hearing is stuff about NATO, stuff about the threat of Russian aggression. We're hit at this like really top militaristic level and not going to the grassroots and actually having a dialogue about what the problem really is.
That's and you never hear that, and that what drives me crazy when you have people defending AOC for this, like, oh my God, she's saying that there's no military solution. Okay, her saying that there's no military solution doesn't mean that she didn't endorse the idea of Joe Biden selling arms to neo-Nazi, because she just said that Joe Biden has the right to do that, and that's what he's doing. That is what he's doing, and they never explain and when I listen to progressives and the neo-progressives, the people like who believe in Western chauvinism, when they talk about even like the Israel-Palestine conflict, you don't hear them ever say or give context about the Venezuelan point of view. You never hear them talk about the DPRK's point of view. You never hear them talk about Russian point of view. This is why they fell for Russiagate. Sam Cedar fell for Russiagate. These people fall for Russiagate because they literally just take the Western chauvinist point of view and never span out of it. So more than anything, AOC's biggest sin about what she didn't say, because as everyone else who was serious was like, Biden, calm the fuck down, because it is not as a big deal as the U.S. is trying to make it, because the only reason the U.S. is making it a big deal, FYI, is so they can justify expanding military budgets, weapon budgets, create a scare, create hysteria, create more funding for the military, which Biden has done.
Did you see the quote?
Why didn't AOC? Sorry, Kobe, I'll pass it right to you. But why didn't AOC say this? Why can't we have a leftist leader say this instead of saying, "Well, Biden is he's within his rights"? You know what I mean? It's a complicated situation. Should we play the clip again? Now that you guys see what me and Kobe had to say, watch AOC's response. And how the fuck is she in Congress? I'm just some guy. I'm just some guy. But Kobe, I want you to finish your thought.
Yeah, I was going to say, like you were saying about how all this panic is helping the military-industrial complex, the Raytheon CEO had just said this week, like, yeah, recent developments in Ukraine and in the UAE and in the South China Sea, these are really good opportunities for our future. We're looking like we're going to see some benefit from this. And it's like, so they're talking, you can see the military contractors know that they're going to make money off of these types of conflicts. And AOC mentions it, but she doesn't tie it to the broader what is happening, what Biden is actually doing. She's not saying how what he's doing is causing this involvement of the military-industrial complex.
When I listen to people, well, I'm not even talking about like even the highest level. I'm talking about people in my community who know about foreign policy. Like, you can take any guest we ever had on RBN, and they can explain the Israel-Palestine conflict better than AOC. Like, they can explain the Cuban embargo crisis better than AOC. Like, that's the problem we have. Like, when I hear her speak, every time I hear AOC speak, I'm like, bro, you're doing nothing to advance leftism. You're not doing nothing to advance anti-capitalism, anti-imperialism. It's just pro-Democratic Party talking points. That's a failure as a leader. But I apologize. I do want to get Zoya, do you have anything you want to add? I know I brought you in for the Biden story, but you have anything you want to add?
I really want to get to everything else we have on Biden, and then I have
we definitely get to that. Yeah, we definitely get to that. So one thing I want to say, because this I want to shock the consciousness, right? Because you got the boutique leftists, they always say, and this is what I was saying in my tweet, they always say, oh my God, you got these activists who, despite the fact they had UN organizers endorse the idea of having a working class movement of people, even if they disagree with on other issues. This is something I endorse. And despite the fact that I endorse this, there's been people like, oh my God, it's Red Brown Alliance. You're a Red Brown Alliance because you believe that you should march with conservatives from healthcare. Because we had a Jones Strike Summit where I'm like, I want to hear from conservatives and put you guys on our side. So yeah, a ton of fucking DSA shit libs who were like, oh my God, you're Red Brown Alliance. Red Brown Alliance. Meanwhile, AOC is apologizing for the Biden administration that is arming neo-Nazis in the Ukraine.
And bombing people in Yemen and all sorts of other foreign policy conflicts. And that's the thing, is that, like you were saying, it's not just a red-brown alliance. There's the blue-brown alliance that's happening right in front of us, where Democrats Democrats are to our right. Like the things that me and you say, like wanting Medicare for all, wanting even nationalized healthcare, you know, our socialist critiques, our anti-imperialist critiques are to the left of what the official, you know, Justice Democrats position is, how the politicians in Congress are using their leverage, what they're saying. And so it's like, how are we the ones who are working with fascists? Like, I'm not saying that Biden's handling the situation in Ukraine properly. I think it's too right-wing. It's too militaristic. Like, it's not diplomatic enough. Like, and that's like you were saying, it shows that they are the ones in
with his record. But it's consistent with his record.
Yes. Which is why it was preposterous for us to vote for them. But once again, Cedar really fucked up. That's the reason why I talk about this, is because I cannot emphasize how much he fucked up, because he said the quiet part out loud. And
I've heard liberals say that all the time. Like, that's a critique I do have of liberals in general on foreign policy. Sometimes it comes from a reasonable place, but it's not, like, not Sam Cedar specifically, but a lot of liberals will say, you know, I don't care about what's happening in Ukraine. I don't care about what's happening over there. I want my health care. I want, you know, I'm worried about the police here. I'm worried about the problems at home. And it's like, okay, that would be great if we weren't already over there doing these violent things. If we weren't over there, we could all just focus on our problems, what's happening here, what we're doing wrong. But instead, we have our politicians doing these escapades abroad. Nobody at home truly understands what they're doing or why, because so much of it's classified. Even the discussions between, Biden and Ukraine, they're not releasing those to the public so that we can see exactly what they said. You know, because there needs to be space in these diplomatic conversations for privacy and secrecy. And so it's like,
I just hate, and that's the main goal I have on the channel. Apparently, it's called out intellectual inconsistency and dishonesty. So, like, these same people, like the Cedar left, the people who, I decided I'm not gonna show you guys like the AOC fans melting down, because I think the tweet is hilarious and is already doing well. But there are like these AOC civil fans, their first reaction to defend her, because Cedar gave the game away. They don't care. At the end, they don't care about the State Department. They don't care about what's going on in Ukraine. They don't actually care about the military-industrial complex and the police state expanding. So when they see someone like me, some poor black guy who had the audacity to criticize their queen, since they don't care about the issue, their reflective action is to defend her, despite it don't matter what I'm saying. They're like, oh my God, you mislead you. I can tell they don't know about the conflict, because based on what they were saying, oh, you were misrepresenting what LC said. LC said there should be no military solution. That means you don't support. The United States always fucking say that, dumbasses. They always say we don't support military solution, but then they put economic sanctions on. That's their code. That's what they do. They'll finance covert operations like this, for example. So once again, I tell people AOC is a failure as a leftist leader. So instead of that horrific world salad that she gave, she could have easily been telling people about this. Why didn't she tell it? If I was in Congress, every interview I would give, I would bring this up. Every interview. Why? I'm asking every AOC fan, why didn't she bring this up? The CIA may be breeding Nazi terror into Ukraine. So AOC in that video, which I'm gonna show you guys again, so you guys can see the absurdity of it. Now that we did our breakdown, the self-determination of Ukrainian people. That's the CIA, you dipshit. God damn.
And America is always at war. We've only expanded how many wars there were in, and it's no accident that a lens is being focused on this right now, as Biden's polling is in the trash, and we're having all of these domestic issues. That's always, if you study history, what happens when there's massive domestic issues. That's when they start fear mongering and manufacturing consent for these wars.
And it's scary how well it works too, because when you look at the post 9/11 era. And George Bush's approval rating right after that, I mean, he was at 90% approval rating when we were about to start the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. Americans at the time were not, there was an anti-war movement. There were a lot of people who were against wars, but so many people are not. Like, so many people are surprisingly pro-war. And it shows how it can rally people around them.
It's out of fear. They're exploiting fear. But who helped get us into that war? Who sold us or helped sell us the lie of weapons of mass destruction?
Joe Biden.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. That was bipartisan.
So if even Jacobin can point that out, well, Jacobin don't have a great track record on imperialism. I think they do. I think they're good on economics, to be honest. But on imperialism, I think they're weak. If even they can point that out, you tell me AOC can't point that out? And if I'll tell you, they will have to kill me, because literally every interview, I'll find a way to bring up a CIA crime. I'll find a way. I'll find a way to work my way around it. They be like, all right, stop interviewing him. You see how comfortable they are interviewing AOC, because they know there's a bound that she won't cross, right? So
I mean, with Bernie even too, like, I've loved Bernie. Like, he taught me so much about socialism, pulled me left, putting all of that aside, like, he plays ball with them in the same sort of way where, my friend Joe, or with Assange stuff, Bernie never spoke out about Assange, or he said, let's stop talking about those damn emails type of thing. Totally letting the Democratic Party get away with a lot of the things that they did in those emails. So it's like that's always kind of been the working on the inside of the Democratic Party path is, there are some things you just can't say that you should say, that it's the popular thing to say, the right thing to say, whatever it is, but you will, create a PR catastrophe. You will hurt the party. You'll hurt yourself politically. So you can't say those things. That's how it works. It seems to work that way.
And people, please keep in perspective that Nick and I don't know if you were, Kobe, but we were out there canvassing. We were out there flipping people. We were their supporters. That is part of the reason we're so outraged. We feel betrayed. We feel like we lied to people. And what's happening now is that a lot of people we convinced, liberals and conservatives, to come on board policy-based, they're now saying, well, look, Bernie and AOC support Biden. So they're reverting and undoing the hard work that we put in.
I mean, that's what creates the conception, the false conception that the Democratic Party is socialist. The Democratic Party is the communists. Like, that's how a lot of conservatives talk about them. And even some liberals talk about them that way. And it's like, but there's a key difference between people like Joe Biden and people who are actually socialist, who aren't in the Democratic Party, who are clearly to their left, but they conflate them together. And it's easy to do when you have the most popular Democratic socialist politicians being in the Democratic Party and walking the line with Joe Biden.
So I think I have one more thing I want to share before I move on. All right, yeah, I do want to share this. So now I'll really make AOC fans mad. I'm really gonna make them mad, because my good friend, I had my friend Thea call this a long time ago. And I remember I started seeing the similarities. So when I see AOC's recent horrific interviews, and we did a breakdown of her interview when she responded to both the Israel-Palestine conflict, the Cuban crisis, and like she's just horrible at imperialism now. And now you see that she completely abandoned the grassroots. Like she go pretty much full-fledged Biden bro. Now seeing the fact that she took grassroots working class money and fund CIA Democrats like Connor Lamb. You guys know she gave Connor Lamb money with the money you gave her. She took your money and then gave it to Connor fucking Lamb. And I say that, man, it looks like AOC is about to be the next Nancy Pelosi. And I say that, and people are like, oh my God, do you guys know how Nancy Pelosi became House Speaker? She became known as a great fundraiser. So you have AOC taking donations from her massive army, and now she's funding Democrats because she want to win them over so they will vote her as House Speaker or support her career, either way you want to go. But people are like, oh my God, you comparing her to Nancy Pelosi? Are you out of your mind? She's a right-wing, insane corporatist. Yeah, she's like year 40. How you guys think Nancy Pelosi got started? I got a shocking clip I'm gonna show you guys.
She was against Medicare for all.
You guys know that Nancy Pelosi started out as relatively progressive, and I'm talking about. Remember, she ran in the 1980s, and I'm gonna show you this clip where she supported single-payer healthcare, and also, by the way, especially because she was in San Francisco, she was one of the first politicians that was seen marching in solidarity with LGBTQ people, right? Which is easy to us now, right? This is a duh. But this is the 1980s. She was like one of the first people that did that. So at the time, we all know Pelosi is one of the most corrupt politicians in the world now, right? Insane right-winger. But at the time, she was seen as supporting single payer and supporting gay marriage and coming out strongly in support. You got to remember, Hillary Clinton was anti-gay marriage as of 2013. Wait, did I get that right?
It was something like that.
I think Barack Obama was as of 2013. I don't want to misquote Hillary, but I know. Remember Barack Obama? He didn't come out for gay marriage until like the 6th year of his presidency, 4th or 5th year of his presidency. So technically, Pelosi was like decades before them, like technically publicly. So my point is, she was considered the progressive, up and coming progressive. So watch this video. If you guys think I'm way too far off, I get it, but I'm seeing patterns emerge because AOC only been there for a few years. I told you guys before, young Bernie was way different than new Bernie. Shall I read the quotes again? No, I'm not gonna do it. I already did the second. But watch this video of young Nancy Pelosi, relatively young. She's still not a spring chicken, but relatively young.
Thank you very much.
Stein.
And now Nancy Pelosi from San Francisco.
Thank you very much, Congressman McDermott, for holding this press conference and for your leadership on the single payer proposal. I remain a staunch and ardent supporter of the McDermott-Conyers bill. I am very pleased with the president's presentation last night. I'm sure others this morning have told you that he made an excellent diagnosis of the problem, and now we have to get on with how we take care of providing health care to all Americans. My problem with the president's proposal, if there is a problem, is that one of the principles of universal access, one of the principles of the single payer bill is universal access. The president has accepted some of the principles of the McDermott legislation, be it universal access, no precondition, portability, you know, the list goes on and on. But for access to be universal, it must be affordable. And my concern is that at 150% of poverty, a family would have to start paying for its 20% share of the insurance, may not make it affordable to many of the families whose needs it hopes to address. There is already a concession on part of the federal government that a family needs food stamps if they're at 185% of the poverty level. If we admit that people cannot feed their families at below 185% of poverty, how then can we expect them to pay for access to insurance at 150%?
I just stopped because I got bored, but you guys get it, right? I was getting bored, so that's why I stopped, to be honest. But there's improvements to be made there. Not perfect, but that's a completely different person. You got Nancy Pelosi now is defending insider trading. That's what she's doing now. So this is a warning. we've seen AOC shift in an insane rate in just 2 or 3 years. Well, 4 years now. Shit, damn. In 4 years, we've seen AOC shift in an insane way. And despite all my feelings about Bernie, at least Bernie was hated and he was smeared as a fucking tanky because he would speak out for the global South socialists who was being waged war by Operation Condor and by Ronald Reagan. So he said stuff he never used to say. He says now. So there was a point where Bernie was like super hardcore. Then he eased up, but at least he had that long period, right? And then he became really soft. But now, yeah, AOC immediately sold out. So after seeing her progression in 4 years, my warning is, what's she gonna look like in 10? Like if she keep hedging, like when I say Nancy Pelosi, people are like that's unrealistic. That's 30 years later. Look at Pelosi.
Yeah, I mean, she'll probably be there talking about the public option. You know, it'll be no more Medicare for all. You know, we need to focus on Cobra expansion, and you know, I mean, it's crazy seeing how Pelosi went from single payer healthcare, and her critique was that access isn't good enough. That access doesn't help a poor family who still can't afford it, right? So that was Nancy Pelosi's critique then. Then you compare it to how Pelosi will talk about Bernie's stance on Medicare for all and how she's basically taking the same position that she was criticizing in the 90s. And now, like we saw with Force the Vote, there was clips of AOC from 2 years ago saying, you know, we need to, they won't even give us a floor vote on Medicare for all. You know, we can't even get that far. And then now when we had a chance to maybe fight for a floor vote, it didn't happen. And it's just like, so I can see why. I mean, I worry about that too, that she's already ending up that way, it seems like to me. But it's like, that's what happens to people if they aren't like committed to, I'm going to stand against the establishment position. I'm going to firmly call it out constantly. Because if you don't tell yourself that, if you let yourself get into the Democratic Party team instead of your principles team, like what you actually believe in, that's what ends up happening. That's why I think we need a third party of some sort, because in a third party, you don't have to worry about taking the Democratic Party line. And I would hope in a third party, you could even criticize that party's line, because I don't think we should be 100% loyal to any party. It should be principles.
Absolutely. And
Nick, sorry, I just want to, I don't hear this mentioned often enough when Pelosi's brought up, and some people don't understand how deeply ingrained she is into the establishment. So her father was the mayor of Baltimore, and then he served as a U.S. representative for Maryland. And she's related to current governor of California, Newsom, and she's also related to former governor of California, Jerry Brown. And that's not where it ends. I'm just giving you the top one.
Yeah, that's important to know, because I want you guys to know the system is not a meritocracy by any stretch of the imagination. The same thing that Zoya explained there, the same thing applies to Joe Manchin and so many different people across the country. Cory Bush defeated William Lancey Clay, who had a 50-year political dynasty 3 hours away from me. So I'm gonna cut. I gotta do a better job of just cutting my fucking segments off. So I'm gonna end the segment there because we really gotta get into the Biden. And I want to make sure I get the super chats as well. I'm trying to do a better job, but guys, I appreciate you guys' patience. So thank you for the $5, Azora. Is your guest Kobe, the reporter who asked Cory Bush why the Fraud Squad didn't back Force to Vote? You did, in fact.
Yes, that was over the summer at the March for Medicare for All. I had literally just walked up to her and I asked, like, hey, like, I'm an independent journalist. Can I ask you 2 questions on camera, just real quick? And she was like, you know, what are the questions? And then I said, the first one is going to be, why'd you show up today at the March for Medicare for All? Why do you support Medicare for All? The second question is, you know, how would you respond to your critics who say that progressives in the House should have withheld their vote for Nancy Pelosi to force a floor vote on Medicare for All? And Cory Bush responded, well, I'll answer the first question for you. I came to the March for Medicare for All because blah, blah, blah. But then I was like, well, why don't you answer the second question? It's like,
what the hell kind of shit is that?
Force the vote is kind of like a made-up controversy. It's just a manufactured controversy. It couldn't have really happened.
That's insane.
And I was like, I couldn't get to videotape her because she didn't consent to me videotaping her. I should have just done it when I walked up.
Do you have the video on hand?
I had my camera, but I asked her for permission to videotape her.
Do you have a link to that video on hand?
No, I have a link to the video on hand for when I called her out during the actual thing.
Yeah, I want to show the video. Do you have it?
Let me find it.
I remember seeing it on Twitter. I actually remember seeing it on Twitter a long time ago.
But then after that, even Max Blumenthal asked Cori Bush the same exact question that I asked her, this time on camera. And she basically said that it couldn't have happened. There was no way they could have forced the vote. And then, but Max said, but what about if 11 members of the Congress withheld their vote for Pelosi? She couldn't have had the votes. And then Cori Bush's security guard comes in and just ends the interview right there in the middle. So still, it was a dodge to the question.
Working class leaders, ladies and gentlemen. They don't want to hear from you. That's crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
You can pull up the next segment. I'll find the clip.
Yeah. We play the video later. I got one more super chat, and then we really got to get into Biden. I appreciate you being patient with me, Zoya. I wasn't planning for that. I wasn't planning that first 7 to go 50 minutes, but there's so much to break down in that clip. So thank you for $5. Dystopia News Bank. AOC, Bernie are effectively imperialist capitalists who co-opted socialism. They actually help capitalism in a way, because I actually heard someone explain this before. Like one of the Marxists who way smarter than me. There are a lot of people like that. A lot of people. I'm surrounded by people who just sharpen my sword. Like that's literally what it is. So some guy who's way smarter than me. I wish I can give him credit, but I at least can say that he's way smarter than me. He explained how AOC, the Squad, DSA, Democratic Socialism, Social Democrat is actually a concession towards anti-communism and anti-Marxism, because you're taking that position because you're taking the pro-imperialist, pro-capitalist position that Marxism and communism is somehow authoritarianism. So that's why you call yourself a social democrat. That's why you call yourself a democratic socialist, because you're like, I support socialist policies, but I don't want the authoritarianism of a communist state. That's you accepting the premise of a capitalist propaganda.
Ignoring the authoritarianism of the capitalist state, as if it's exclusive to communism.
The correct answer, guys, is there's no authoritarianism when you have the dictatorship of the proletariat. If you have the will that is matched by the people, you can't call it authoritarianism. That's the answer, by the way, if you're wondering.
It's just so crazy to me, because it's like I used to be one of those democratic socialists who was scared of communism.
I was too.
I was the same way. I mean, I thought the same thing, that it's inherently authoritarian, and so this democratic socialism, what's democratic, right? So it must be better. Not realizing that communism itself is just inherently democratic. The idea of the workers controlling the means of production, the workers making the decisions, that's democracy. So communism is just economic democracy. It's not just political democracy, but it's the means of production, the workplace also having democracy.
Yeah, I gotta find who because I one thing I did not make that analysis, but that is spot on. Like I tell you, my sword just gets sharpened, because the whole point of calling yourself that is if you conceding to the capitalists on their Cold War propaganda. And as soon as I heard, I was like, yeah, that's fucking dead on. But anyway, I'll move on because I actually want to get to the Biden story. Let's see.
We sidetracked for a whole nother story.
Yeah, so we got one more story. I know you had an hour, but you might stick with me.
I can stay for a little bit more. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't want to keep it too long, but let me know in the chat.
I'll let you know.
Because I have no idea how long this story will go. Because I didn't plan the AOC story to go that long, but I already know this one's gonna go. Because I gotta break this shit down. Because there's so many people on the left that are still stuck in 2014-15 when they analyze the country. When they talk about the struggles, when you see people, I should just call this dude out, but I don't want to do it. That'd be harassment. That's not fair. But some person was trying to imply that the Democrat Party is the anti-racist party. So he was like, why don't you call out the racist Republicans? I was like, bro, Democrats are racist too. And they were like, what? Like, what? What are you talking about? What? Of course they are. Of course they are. Of course they are. The Democrat Party is the party of the police state. When people say hashtag Black Lives Matter, we gotta take down the blue line. They immediately associate that with MAGA and Republicans, right? But do you guys know Democratic senators take more money than Republicans do? What state did George
corporations?
From police unions. Union, we know how corrupt they are. In the Senate, I found the receipt for you guys. I've shown it before. Do you guys? What state did George Floyd die in? Who was responsible for? Who was not responsible for prosecuting and going after George Floyd before? Amy Klobuchar, Democratic senator who takes the second most money in police funding, who supports stop and frisk. Your New York mayor, Eric Adams, The LAPD is ran by Democrats, the most corrupt institution. And you guys telling me this is a Republican problem?
I mean, DC, when I was there for the Black Lives Matter protests, we went to Mayor Bowser's house, the Democratic mayor who had endorsed stop and frisk Mike Bloomberg for president in 2020. And they were trying to take money away from, well, I think it was healthcare to pay overtime for DC police for all the protests. And, so she was not responding to the claim that the demands to defund the police. She was giving the police more money while painting the street Black Lives Matter. And Democrats run most of the major cities, and that's where there's so much police violence. So it's both parties.
Yeah, so if you're one of them people that think Jim Crow Joe is some sort of Marxist who want to defund the police, now I'm laughing at you right-wingers. Deeply unserious. There are a lot of right-wing populists who believe that shit. Deeply unserious shit. So the reality of the situation is that was one of the few campaign promises that Biden delivered on. So he didn't fail on all his campaign promises. So Black Lives Matter, who came out in favor of Joe Biden and even celebrated his victory. Despite the fact that during the debate, and we explained this earlier, he was running to Trump's right on law enforcement. Because he accurately pointed out how the Republican Party trying to cut state and local government funding, that the Republicans are actually defunding the police. And that was actually accurate in a way, right? But then he was like, no, I'm actually going to fund the police more when I'm president because we're actually going to give money to the state and local governments, right? And that's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they did. I'm gonna explain exactly why that is. Okay, let me show you.
It reminds me so much of how politics was in like the 2000s, where it would be like the Republicans are being super anti-immigrant, we need border security. And the Democrats are just trying so hard to prove to them, yes, we agree with you. We also want harsh border security. Look, we're not weak on the border. Look, we do this. Look, we're not weak on Russia. Look, we do this. And that's how they excuse their chauvinism.
And remember, Jim Crow Joe was pushing Ronald Reagan to the right on criminal justice. So this whole thing when people pretend that this fight against the police state, the fight against white supremacy is a fight against the Republican Party. Like it's just a fight against the Republican Party, I should say. It's clown shit to me. It's clown. You guys know every part of the crime bill had Joe Biden names on it. Every single one. He ended Trump's mandatory minimum, and now he launched. There's a boom going on in the prison industrial complex because remember what the Democrats criticized Trump for. The attack line they used against Trump was technically you guys are cutting police funding by cutting government, local state governments, right? So that's essentially what Joe Biden, he was like, under the CARES Act, which your progressives voted for. Let me read the whole thing. Rather than investing in decarceration and reentry programs to protect public as recommended by the nation's leading health and safety experts. So let me get this straight. The party that believes in science was told, and this is what the article breaks down. Scientists was telling the United States that there's going to be a massive problem with the prison system under a pandemic. So you guys have to completely reimagine how you do a carceral system if you're actually serious about saving lives. That is what national health experts were saying. The Democrats decide not to listen to them. So if you think the Democrat Party is the party of science, you're beyond delusional. So despite the fact that you had public health experts tell them you gotta change the way that we do our carceral system if you're one of the people that believe this is endemic, like a lot of right wingers do, like this is endemic, which I think it is too, right? If you think this is endemic, then we have to change our society.
Yeah. We can't just live with it how it is today and just sacrifice. That's why people compare that position to eugenics, because If you're not changing the systems to prevent these people from dying, because we know it's here to stay, if that's your position and you don't want to do anything else, anything at all to stop those people from dying, those are preventable deaths.
That's such a good point, because the same people who are like smear lefties who are against mandates, they're like, "Oh man, you pushing eugenics?" Like, no, I'm not. I think they should get fucking healthcare and free grocery food deliveries, and that would solve like 1/3 of the COVID deaths. Now you guys said hospital beds are being overrun. Okay, let's double the hospital beds. You guys know they cut it in 2018 despite a flu pandemic.
That's crazy. I've seen statistics. I've seen statistics comparing the 70s hospital beds to today. And we had like 1.5 million hospital beds in the 70s with less people, millions less people. And now we have like 900,000 hospital beds in the whole country. So over the past few decades, since Reagan, basically, the hospital beds have been declining and the population's going up. So that's a big part of why we've had a bad pandemic response, why there's not enough hospital beds.
So if you are a right winger and you're against mandates, you kind of are for eugenics. But the left wingers who are against mandates, like I am, I believe we should change our society because this is an endemic. We should have healthcare, period. Free housing, period. Because homeless people help spread the virus, right? So like these are the kind of things I want to change. I'm using this opportunity to push this country to the left. I told you guys, I got an agenda. I'm the most biased commentator you ever find. I am unapologetically advocating for the working class. So, and I'm finished the story before I start ranting. So this is what your progressives voted for. So because they got more state and cities got federal money under the CARES Act, and then they allocated that money to the police departments and constructions of more jails and prisons. So, and despite all the protesting from scientists and public health advocates, those appeals fell on deaf ears. So let me explain what happened here. So the CARES Act, you know, the thing that the progressives like help vote for and they advertise all the time, they took that money, instead of actually taking care of people, they start funneling money to the police departments. So now in the middle of a pandemic, instead of marching for Medicare for all with us, right, like they're doing, instead of providing healthcare to people in the pandemic, instead of providing housing to people in the pandemic, you guys are funding the police state more. And you guys know, do you guys think that's a coincidence? And Zoe, I'm gonna get you in here. But do you guys think that's a coincidence that they were doing this in a time where late stage capitalism is failing, where more people are going to poverty, where millions of people are going homeless? Well, what happens when you have a large segment of society that goes to poverty? So a lot of liberals lied and said Biden lifted people out of poverty. Well, he just let the child tax cut expire. So then he just put millions of people back into poverty? If I was to accept your premise? So they know this. You guys think they're dumb? They know society is failing. So that's why they're funding the police state more, because they're trying to get prepared for society upheaval. That happens when you have an empire that banished their people, like history tells us. You think they don't read history? You think they don't know how Rome fell? You think the people who are managing this empire don't know what happened to other empires? They're doing everything they can to stop that from happening and get people to understand that consciousness. So that people always, why you criticize the progressives? They are failure of leftist leaders because they voted for this provision that gave the cops more money in the middle of a pandemic.
And there's no pushback about Biden's position on wanting to give police more money. I mean, I don't know, I don't know if I've heard any interviews where they've said anything critical. They might have kind of like
every interview, find a way to say this. Every interview. Go ahead, Kobe.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, it's like they never really make the critique of Biden's police budgets, you know, Biden's carceral justice response. It's always kind of, anytime they critique Biden, it has to be, they're making a criticism, but they're not directing it at Biden. They're kind of saying, yeah, I don't really like police. I don't really like this thing over here. And then Biden's, you know, doing the best he can and all this stuff, not making the connection between the two, like we're trying to make everybody make on the left, is the idea that criticize Biden's policing, criticize the harsh carceral response and not giving people Medicare for all. Because police, what they think, the carceral justice system, they think that punishing people and locking them in a cage or policing them, they think that's how you solve crime in society. They think that's the only way. They don't see any other path. They're like, well, what else would you do? Why would you cut the police budget? That's crazy. You know, of course you need the police budget. It's because they're not thinking in the abolitionist way of solving the root causes of crime itself. Biden very much so comes from the tough on crime mindset, like you said, the crime bill in the 90s. So even when he pretends, oh yeah, I believe in rehabilitation for drug addicts, you know, I don't think they should be punished. But he hasn't changed that policy either. You know, we don't see that changing either. And it's because he's not changed, really. Only in the rhetoric we've seen the change, not in the actual action.
I want to get Zoe in here.
The federal prison population has grown for the first time in a decade under Biden. And in 2019, State and federal prison and local jail incarcerations dropped by 14%. That was under Trump. The number.
Wait, say that again. Say that again. I didn't know that. Say that again.
State and federal prison and local jail incarcerations dropped by 14% in 2019.
Wow.
And they went up again now, finally. Oof.
Oh,
damn, liberals are so good at this shit. Liberals are so much, like, they are right wing. The point is liberals are better. Like, they're better at deporting more people.
Effective at it.
Yeah, they're more effective. Yeah, that's what I mean. That best way to put it. They're more effective at funding the military. They're more effective at getting the police more money. But sorry, Zoe, go ahead.
And not only is Biden, I almost called him Trump, deporting more people, but the number of people held in ICE detention has increased by 70% since Biden took office.
Yeah, I know usually the excuse they'll give, the liberals will usually give the excuse when you point out that statistic. They'll say, "Oh, well, that's because people in the Latin America, they feel safer or immigrating to America under Biden," and then they end up getting thrown in jail because Biden treats you the exact same way that happened under Trump's administration, or similar ways, the same patterns. And so it's because
I heard Kamala saying, "Do not come, do not come."
But people think that because people think that Democrats are the lesser of two evils, they think they're the good guys. They think they're the ones who want to help the immigrant. And so people get this false idea and they end up getting caught up in ICE anyway, even more so than under a Republican, because under the Republican, they're scared to come because they're being told they're going to be hurt and they think they're going to be safer under a Democrat. It doesn't end up being that way.
I explained this before, but that's so interesting. I need to dive into that. But I explained the reason why Biden is on pace to deport more people than Trump, and why Barack Obama deported more people than Trump in his first term compared to Trump's first term. Do you guys think that Barack Obama and Joe Biden deporting more people just because Donald Trump don't have the will? Like he doesn't want it more enough. He don't want it hard enough. You think that's why? No, he wants it just as bad as them. Trust me. They did an analysis, and there was dysfunction among DHS under Trump. Believe it or not. And they wasn't able to work as smoothly as they was under Barack Obama. So when you have a liberal in charge, you have these institutions that run like a well-oiled machine. But when you had Donald Trump in charge, there was people even in DHS that had apparently, and this comes from inside leaks, had Trump derangement syndrome. So that's why they don't have the well-functioning machine to just pump out the numbers that neoliberals do. It's literally that simple. And not because Democrats are more evil than Republicans. It's not because Republicans had less malice than Democrats. It's because Democrats are literally better at managing the forces of oppression than Republicans have recently. Barack Obama took George Bush's 2 wars and took it to 7. He spent. You see how they just better at doing.
It's because they come off as interpersonally kinder. People think because they say it civilly, they're being very professional and civil, and so they must be, better than those guys. But then, like you said, it just ends up they sell the same thing, but now you have a nice, calm person telling it to you, somebody who you think is your friend telling it to you. So people eat it up. Whereas when Trump does the exact same policies, he's calling people insults and he's being rude and he's being an obvious bigot, and like everybody can tell. And so everybody kind of like resists it. They like backlash when somebody like Trump or a Republican's doing it. Whereas when a Democrat says the same exact thing, that liberal who disagreed with the Republican saying that same exact thing will defend it, even though there's no difference in substance of what's actually happening.
Well said. And I'm gonna get you in here, Zoya, but I want to explain to you guys why the idea of just calling the Republican Party anti-science, it never makes sense, ever. But they're just another example, because how are you gonna call the Republican Party anti-science when you got fucking fracker in the White House, right? Now, what do public health experts say about pandemics and prisons? So I was trying to find this earlier. I found a good spot here. Let's read this part. Let me try to zoom in. I don't want to zoom in because I lost my spot last time I did that. This site is kind of glitchy. So I'm going to just keep it right here. I'll read it for you guys. At the start of the pandemic, public health experts hoped for very different policy outcomes as we sounded the alarms that the U.S. prison system, the largest in the world, prisons at least 1/4 of the world's prison population, posed a major threat to national public health. Meanwhile, the shit libs, they are calling for Joe Rogan to be censored because he's a threat. You see how Joe Rogan's a threat to public health because he has a podcast. But you guys are fucking that rock star. I don't know his name. The fucking Kid Rock dude, whatever. I don't know his name. But
Neil
he was
Young.
like, what's his name?
Was it Neil Young, the one who wanted
Yeah,
to
Neil
boycott?
Young. I'll tell you, I don't know pop culture that well, but Neil Young, he pulled this shit from Spotify because of Joe Rogan. But why is he not doing about the prison system?
Yeah.
So
I mean, Joe Rogan's just what? He would even call himself like a dumbass pothead just talking to random people. Like, people shouldn't see him as being the expert of all truth. They shouldn't take him for medical advice 100%. Like, he's just a person talking. And I think what's so hypocritical about when people do those types of things, like you said, wanting to deplatform somebody like Joe Rogan, but then not having the same energy for what's happening in the prison system or what's happening in military abroad and what's happening under capitalism. It's like, and what you're going to end up happening, the people who believe Joe Rogan, the people who really trust him, that you're trying to change their mind. You think that taking him off the air is going to change their mind. No, it's just going to make them dig their heels in and be like, oh, you took my hero off the Spotify. Yeah. He must be saying something right. You know what I mean? So they end up being more into their belief. Whereas, that's what debate's about. That's why you just convince people that they're wrong about whatever they think, whatever their stance is.
You guys, that just show how weak our liberal ideology is. You guys are scared of Joe Rogan. Like you guys want to censor him because you can't counter his arguments. And that's ridiculous. Like, once again, I'm not one of the people that are not that impressed by Rogan. Like, I'm a lefty martial artist, and I was playing this before. But you guys know I watched Joe Rogan back when it was in the double digits. Like, because I was a martial artist. I was like one of the OG like watchers. And then as a lefty, I'm like, all right, I don't really like Rogan. He literally stabbed UFC fighters in the back. Like, he sided with Lorenzo Fertitta. The Fertittas are billionaire. Some of the slimiest businessmen in the way they operate. They are extremely anti-union. They're they ripped off the fighters. I literally had to do a whole live stream to explain how the fighters been ripped off. So I got to spare you guys, right? But Joe Rogan has this massive platform. And he could have completely shifted the conversation on fighter pay. You guys know Gray Maynard fought for the UFC lightweight title and was paid $40,000. They had a UFC title fight a few weeks ago, a heavyweight title fight where one of the fighters would pay $500,000. The UFC is a $1 billion company. They pay by far the lowest amount of revenue to their athletes by far than any other public sport. Where's Joe Rogan on this issue? In fact, not only has he been silent, he constantly sides with the UFC. He sides with Dana. And when they had the Reebok deal screwed fighters because it took their sponsorships away. So the UFC will pay shitty wages. This is during the Chuck Liddell era, when the UFC first blew up, they'll pay shitty ass wages to these fighters, but they'll only make money because they'll have sponsors on the shorts. Mm-hmm. So the UFC took that away because they got a Reebok deal. And then they paid the UFC fighters like pennies out of that deal. And what was Joe Rogan doing while that was happening? He went on his podcast and propped up. The Reebok deal is amazing. This is gonna make the sport more professional. So he had friends that were fighting. He stabbed them on the back. He could have made such a giant change. Once again, this is why I'm a lefty martial artist. You're never gonna hear this from the right wing reactionaries. But he screwed fighters. He screwed them. But anyway, I gotta do a whole segment on that. So Joe Rogan is not your friend. He sided with his rich friends. The Fertittas are some of the worst capitalists in the country. Extremely anti-union, and he's good for that's the problem with Rogan, not the shit liberal. You know that liberals they never bring this shit up.
Their critiques of him aren't the real left-wing critiques. Yeah. Like his statements on things like vaccine, like that's one conversation, but like he thinks we should vote for Michelle Obama, or he said that he might want to vote for our next election. Like he thought that he was kind of like supportive of Trump during the election. Like he said he would vote for Trump, and it's like there are right-wing tendencies that Rogan has. He's weird. He's all over the place. Like his political ideology is like a mix of a bunch of different things.
Oh, wait. Let me say something about that too. Because once again, guys, I am a long time. I remember the Charlie Murphy episode. Like that was the old school, like double digits. I am like people were like, oh, Joe Rogan, he had conversations with people all over. He can talk to conservatives, he can talk to liberals. No, he's a fucking coward. Like he has socialists on, and he will have Dr. Cornel West on, and he'll agree with anything Dr. Cornel West says. Then he'll have right winger on. He'll agree with anything they said. So as an early watcher, I kind of peeped this. So why does he do this? Does he do it because he ideologically like curious? No, he does it because he don't want to piss off conservative viewers. He don't want to piss. So it's literally just a business move. So people are praise Joe Rogan because all these people voices on. No, that's a good business move. So you can draw people in from different ideological perspectives. So as someone who didn't watch Joe Rogan when he got popular, I dropped him a long time ago. I noticed he would do this. He would be a chameleon. Like he would have some dipshit on. And I'm thinking like, oh man, I heard Rogan. He said he believed in healthcare. He said he believed in socialists, right? Cause he said he is socialist multiple times on his podcast.
Sometimes, yeah.
Then he would have Ben Shapiro on, the perfect time to call this motherfucker off, and he was like, "Yeah, I agree with you." What?
Because I think Rogan even says he's more of a liberal. He's much more of a liberal than a socialist, I think.
Yeah, he is. He definitely is a shit lib. And guys, the reason he does that not because he's curious. He does that because he brought Ben Shapiro on his show and he wanted to win them over, right? He want them to. Why do you think he's the biggest podcaster in human history? You guys, well, I don't know history, but in modern times, right? Like 10 times larger than cable news. You guys think he did that without making any business calculations? As someone who watched him very early on as a martial artist, I seen him shift. I seen him change. So anyway, I actually did not mean to go on this this rant, but the reason why I wanted to do that because I wanted to share the lefty criticism of Joe Rogan. Like the liberal meltdown over Rogan is complete stupid ass. Even like the meltdown when Joe Rogan endorsed Bernie, because to me, I wasn't shocked by that because I knew that Joe Rogan has socialist tendencies. That's why I lost respect for him. Because you had all these socialist tendencies that I'll watch this podcast back in the day. You talk about like, y'all believe people have healthcare. And then as soon as you have a right winger on, you had an opportunity to flip right wingers. And you don't because you're a capitalist and you rather take the money at the end of the day. So this analysis is why I don't understand as a martial artist and someone who's been following for a while, why people like him as a lefty. I just don't get it. But probably because I know
for me, I've never been like a fan of his entirely. Like I've watched his podcast. Like you said, I used to watch back in like, I don't know, it was 2015, 2014, pretty early on in YouTube. And like, I think what I liked about it was just that he was talking about aliens and drug use and just having conversations with people. I only liked those like non-political types. He would touch on CIA conspiracies. Like he would touch on some really important topics, more so in the past than he does today. Definitely. Like you said, I've seen the shift too.
Yeah, I learned a lot about the CIA watching the early JRE.
But it's like, so I see the appeal that he has. Like he's a conversational person. He could talk to anybody. But like you said, he's not going to disagree with anybody. He's just going to let you say kind of what you think. Maybe there will be some mild pushback here or there if you say something totally out of left field. But like, yeah, he's not really a leftist. He's not really a socialist. He's just a guy. That's the appeal to him. He's just a guy talking to people.
All right, so I actually did not mean to go on that. I want to get Zoya in here but I actually want to finish this. I'll maybe clip that as a whole nother segment, and because I didn't mean to do that. But anyway, let's get back to this. Let's go back to the point that I was making earlier. Also, by the way, Joe Rogan, I didn't watch the show to be fair, but I saw clips of him doing that shit lib thing where he fear mongering against defunded police. Joe Rogan was one of the people. Why do you guys think Joe Rogan fear mongers over defunded police? Does it have anything to do with the fact that he's a millionaire? How do leftists see this shit and be like, oh, I like Joe Rogan? That doesn't make sense to me. Like, I saw that, I'm like, all right, man, fuck this mother. How are you going to take the side of the police state? Anyway, all right. Anyway, let's get back into this. So I'm gonna start from the beginning because I cut myself off. So at the start of the pandemic, public health experts hope for a very different policy outcome as we sounded alarms that the U.S. prison system, the largest in the world, posed a major threat to national public health. We correctly anticipated that if ambitious changes were not immediately implemented, our jails and prisons will operate as epidemic engines, fueling the spread of disease that could affect millions. You guys notice that the pro-science Democrats don't care about that? So let's go down to the beginning. You guys know, as of September 2021, jails and prisons constituted, I don't know why I fucked that up, 90 out of the top 100 epidemic hotspots. 90 out of the 100 are in prisons. You guys know the people who believe that healthcare is a human right, you know they don't get adequate healthcare in prisons? That's something that we're still fighting to this day. Abolitionists are fighting for prisoners to get adequate healthcare in prisons.
I think I heard that Leonard Peltier, he caught COVID recently, and I read it was because he couldn't get his booster shot on time when he wanted it, months ago, because it's just caught up in the backlog of how prisons deal with healthcare. And yeah, I mean, and I've seen pictures from like Rikers Island or like from some of those migrant detention centers where you see people living in very cramped conditions. Like You know, all like 20 people, 30 people, 40 people all laying on a floor next to each other while the pandemic's spreading everywhere. And it's like, that's totally a health risk. Like you were saying, it's anti-science entirely not to change these types of policies. The idea that Biden signed like 100 fracking leases and all sorts of other national parks, or there was one national forest where they wanted to log it times 4, like quadruple how much we're logging in that forest. And so, like you said, they like to say, trust the science, unite behind the science, we believe in science. But you can always poke holes in it because there's always situations where they're valuing politics over science.
Well, so I really want to give Zoya the floor here. I really want to get back in here because we got so much to say about the prison industrial complex as a whole. And if you guys don't know, once again, for new viewers, Zoya co-founded 10 Demands with me. If you guys don't know, 10 Demands is our abolitionist group where we actually put a list of demands. So look, there are a lot of people who say, and I debated Girl and Nixon about this, where they're like, oh, abolitionists don't have any plans. And the fact they don't have any plans that turn people off. No, we actually have a very, very detailed plan that I hope right with Zoya. And during the time we were writing it, Zoya and Ak definitely was way more educated on me. Like they will teach me a lot. Like I will learn a lot. So Zoya is like the expert in this topic. So I want to pass it to you, Zoya. Do you have any thoughts on the prison industrial complex with Biden doing in general?
I mean, what he's doing is outrageous, just diverting funds that were meant to help struggling Americans in order to build more prisons and jails, and also just put more cops on the streets to incarcerate people. I just dropped in our private chat a link for one of the examples of how that's working out, because people sometimes think it doesn't impact them. But I want you to know, when our communities are not being funded and necessary services aren't being performed, you will be impacted. So Nick, if you can put that up. Yeah.
Can you see it? Can you see it?
Yeah, I see it.
Is this the right one?
Yeah. So a fuel tax that was meant for bridge repair went to state police instead. And how that ended up, the next screenshot in that tweet, the bridge collapsed.
That's insane. Wow.
And you guys were talking about prison conditions. I recently saw a documentary that was talking about a prison where the heat would get so intense in the summer that prisoners were literally just fainting and even dying from just getting cooked alive in over 100 degrees temperature. And they would refuse to build any sort of air conditioning because the mindset was that they are in there as a punishment, so we should not alleviate any of their struggles. Hang on. I want you guys to hear this part. Meanwhile, they built a pig pen in the prison, and they built an air conditioner system for the pigs. And when asked why, they were said, well, it would be inhumane not to put in air conditioning for the pigs.
Now, I didn't even see that story. I'm so glad you shared that, Zoya. But now you see how supporting this prison industrial complex and police state it impacts workers by having poor infrastructure. So right-wing populists, how can you say you are class conscious if you support this? If you support the siphoning of resources that can help our community that goes to the police state. So I am not letting you guys off the hook on this. Right-wing people who are against mandates because you think you're anti-authoritarianism or whatever, you're not. You just don't want to fucking adjust the COVID policies. Be honest. That's what it is. Because at the end of the day, you're silent. You're not willing to protest. You guys have all these right-wing protests about mandates. Where are the protests about the Patriot Act? Where are the protests about the endless wars? So it's just one issue that you guys don't want to change your life for. You guys are not anti-authoritarian. You're not. I'm not gonna let y'all.
It's so crazy because so many like Republicans have supported, conservatives have supported those types of harsh carceral justice punishments like Zoya just talked about. I mean, I remember reading about Joe Arpaio in, I want to say it was Arizona. He would purposely make people sleep, like prisoners sleep in the desert at night in the wintertime when it gets down to like 20 degrees, 10 degrees with no blankets. He would have some like homophobic jokes where he'd make them all wear pink and like make fun of them and stuff. It's like, it's the sickness that some of these people must have with how they do their prison policies, how they treat people in prisons. They think of people in prisons as they're so horrible, terrible people that they should be dehumanized, that these people should be peed on, that their Bible should be stepped on right in front of their face. Like, that's how some people in America really, really think that people in jails deserve to be treated. And it's so crazy. So how can you be anti-authoritarian if you have historically or still do support the prison industrial complex and how they work today?
Well said. Zoya, any last words? And then
I just dropped another link for you.
Oh yeah, let's do it. So
there's an organization. It's called Color of Change, and actually, I saw earlier in our comment section that people were saying, "You guys are preaching to the choir. We need strategies and we need action." So I actually discussed that with Nick just this morning. So we are going to give you guys some things that you can do beyond just covering the topics, but also keep in mind that there's a lot of people watching these channels that don't know the things that you guys know. They might sound like a given to you, but there are still people out there that don't know that 25% of the world's prison population is in America, even though we have 5% of the world's population. So it is important for us to cover these facts, but we will give you actionable solutions. So you can go right to their website, colorofchange.org, to sign this petition, which basically demands that Biden give these people clemency. So during the pandemic, there were some people that were already vetted and scrutinized, released into home confinement instead of prison, either because they were elderly or immunocompromised. They're still serving their sentence, but at home, and they're doing extremely well. They are seeing their families, integrating back into society. They are basically demonstrating that they have reformed, which supposedly our institutions are designed to do. But now Biden is planning to send these people back into prison, even for longer sentences. And if you scroll down a little bit,
let's take our time and read through this. Actually, I saw a good place that we can read through. Here, let me because this is a good information over here. Let me zoom this in. Can you see it?
Yes.
I want to give you the opportunity to present this, Zoya. So do you want to continue?
Yeah, I'll just read the parts in bold, and people can go to the website for the details.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have just learned that the Bureau of Prisons is still planning to send thousands of people back to prison when the pandemic is declared over. But they wanted us to miss the fine print. Anyone on home confinement with longer sentences will be once again ripped from their families and society and sent back to a cage when the pandemic is declared over. The Bureau of Prisons hasn't even defined what a longer sentence constitutes yet, so people are still left in limbo about the fate of their future. So this is both cruel and inhumane, because you've already given people, a sense of returning home, and now you want to send them back. And what's really concerning is that Biden has the power to make this happen, and just by granting them clemency.
There's no way
now.
There's no way you're gonna do it, because I just now realized something. Sorry, Zoya, but the reason why they will never allow a program like this to continue to exist, like where they can stay home, because this is a rebuke of the punitive capitalist form of prison, right? But go ahead. I won't pass it right back to you, Zoya.
Yeah, no, and he's basically giving the discretion to the Justice Department to decide who's going to go back and who isn't. And it says further in here, we can't let Biden pick and choose who deserves to be at home with their families and who deserves to be locked up in a cage based on historically racist criteria. If Biden is going to make a meaningful impact towards ending racialized, and it goes on. I am not confident that this will happen, but as activists, we still have to.
We got to take all our shots. Yeah.
But yeah, of course, this racist system. Guess who's going to get sent back and who isn't? I bet you it's going to be people of color and the poor.
It's so frustrating because, like you said, if they're already in home confinement, they've gotten a taste of home. They're not in that confined prison anymore. And they haven't done anything wrong, right? They're not being a violent influence in their community. They're not hurting anything. So they must not be so dangerous that they need to be kept in the jails anymore. Like, why would you send them back to the jails? They're already out and about and tasting freedom and getting reintegrated into their community, you send them back to prison, they're going to end up, in this harsh, isolated environment where they don't connect with people, they're scared or whatever it is, and it's just going to like reset their whole reintegration process, and they're just going to get worse. Their health will get worse, their mental health.
And basically, it's demonstrating to us that we are peddled a lie, that these prisons are designed to reform people. And when they are showing that they're already reformed, they send them back in anyways. Another link I wanted to share, I just dropped it in the chat. This is for people who need help with bail. We successfully ended bail in California. Thank God. But still, bail is a serious problem that impacts, of course, the same marginalized communities. So this yes, and I have several friends that are incarcerated, so this issue is very personal to me. So this is something that people can sign up for to get help with bail. It's a good advocacy group. And I just wanted to say on the Biden issue in general, often we discuss Biden's failures and people have a knee-jerk reaction to default to he's better than Trump. I don't mean leftists who support us, but out there in the ether. So I want to clarify that none of us prefer Trump. But other than nicer tweets and rhetoric, objectively reviewing policies, Biden is factually not the lesser evil. We as a society have to stop accepting this myth that our only options are two parties, both of which are sold out to corporate interests. I'm not saying changing this reality will be easy or fast, but let's at least start by voting third party and pushing ballot initiatives that will reform voting. Ballot initiatives work. That's how we effectively ended cash bail in California. But we have to be honest about the problem in order to direct our energy towards solutions. Of course, voting isn't the only available venue for change. There's mutual aid, organizing labor, striking, protesting, and to quote a great man, by any means necessary.
Yeah, we need, and that's, me and Zoya talk about this a lot, and Zoya influenced my thinking on this a ton. And this is why I believe we need a comprehensive leftist movement to have revolutionary discipline, right? And there are a lot of people who rely on electoral politics so much, and then they're like, oh, we let mutual aid fill the gaps. And then like wherever they can't get done with electoral politics, then we do a little organized. It's the exact opposite. The way that most people operate, it should be the exact opposite. You should go all the way in hard on community building, mutual aid, and then electoral politics will fill the gaps in wherever you can't get accomplished. So when people ask me how much we should invest in electoral politics, my numbers is always around 15%. Everyone's number is different. The people who I think are unserious, whether they will admit it or not, they will say their number is around like 90%. Their number is like 90%. All their energy goes to electing Ian Turner, Justice Democrats, all they give a fuck about. My number is around 50%, 15%, for the exact reason that Zoya mentioned. I think direct ballot initiatives are a great option because I live in Missouri. We got a Medicaid expansion and a minimum wage increase in a red-ass state. You know, when Trump won and Claire McCaskill lost, our state voted for a minimum wage increase and a Medicaid expansion. But go ahead and tell me that this country is conservative. It's just the Democrats are designed to lose, right? In that same race, Claire McCaskill was running to Josh Hawley's right on immigration, by the way. She was saying, if you elect me, I'll get Trump's border wall done. That's your anti-racist party, progressive. Like, just letting you guys know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally on with that. I don't even know if I spend 15% of my time in electoral politics anymore, to be honest, just because I mean,
it's a subjective number, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good number. I mean, I think even a little more than that could be okay, because like, I definitely don't think it's the end-all be-all. I don't even think it's the biggest thing. I don't think people should totally give up on electoral politics, just because, I mean, even if we had a revolution, even if we had a complete societal change, like, there will still be some form of politics, whether it's direct democracy. I mean, I think direct democracy is better than electoral politics, like we said, ballot initiatives. But, you know, I see the role in it because if we even have 5% of people vote for the Green Party, well, then the Green Party gets like major party status, which means they get more campaign funding, which means they get all the sorts of things like that. Like, there's a lot of benefits to building the party up. But at the same time, if you invest all your energy in electoral politics, you're bound for a letdown because, like we said, the two parties are both basically doing the same things. People are understandably nervous about third parties falling into similar tendencies just because people are imperfect and parties are imperfect. But yeah, I mean, I think working in the community, focusing on the issues, building coalitions on the actual issues themselves. Like, me and you don't have to agree on everything, but if we agree on Medicare for all, okay, at least we're at the March for Medicare for All together, right? There was a Republican from Utah who spoke at the March for Medicare for All. He genuinely believes in single-payer, like, nationalized healthcare. I probably don't agree with most of his other politics. It's probably really, really bad in my opinion. You know, I don't know him, but I don't have to concern myself with his other stuff because I'm only focused on, okay, we agree on this Medicare for all thing. That's it. And I think more people have to focus on that, like coalition building on the issues, not just, oh, this person has one bad idea I don't like, so they're entirely cast out forever. And if they agree with me on Medicare for all, no, I still can't work with them. Because that was the problem we were having with the March for Medicare for All. Was so many people would be like, oh, you're platforming that person? Oh, I don't know if I want to go to that March for Medicare for All. And it's like, if you do a general strike, if we do mass movements, you're always going to have disagreements with people. Like the critiques we have of imperialism. We think the Democratic Party is imperialist. Even AOC and the Squad do imperialist things. But on a March for Medicare for All, we have no problem with them showing up to the March for Medicare for All in solidarity, right? Just because we agree on that one issue. Too many people get too much. They don't like a person's views. So if they agree with me, oh, you know, I must change my opinion or I must not fight for this view because now they agree with me. Like that's not going to work.
Well, we got to stop looking for perfect allies because such a thing just does not exist. And also learn the difference between an ally and someone that can work with you to further your cause. Because, Nick, your mic is muted. I can see you, but I can't hear you.
No, I was just hyping you up.
He's giving us the reverse Sam Cedar treatment.
Yeah, that's on point. That's literally what we've been saying because I don't expect none of y'all to be perfect. I'm not perfect. I used to say a lot of stupid ass shit. I'm 31. I grew up in a community that was extremely homophobic. And I say this publicly to let you guys know that I evolved on that issue. Because I used to say homophobic shit when I was younger. Because I used to think it was funny. Like, watch black comedy in the 90s. Watch Eddie Murphy stand up. I used to think that shit was funny. And I was like, when you get older, you grow and you change. Me and Rome, we talk about this all the time. So we're not perfect allies. And if you're expecting perfect allies, your only goal is to tank movement building. Because you know who you want to know who understands this concept? The people who get in victories in the global south. And the people who are also working within our establishment. Because you know it's the progressives in Congress. They're more than happy to work with fucking racists like Joe Biden.
And they weaponize our purity against us. Like if you read CIA documents from COINTELPRO, one of the things they do is infiltrate a group and start talking about each and every single process, you know, criticizing as much as they possibly can to disorganize the group, to get everybody to hate each other, to divide and conquer the leftist group. And so it's like sometimes we do it to ourselves even.
Yeah, and just to bring an example, when I was fighting to legalize marijuana here in California and nationwide, there was a cop who I worked with. Now, we differ on many points, and he was a retired cop. But he's part of this organization called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition because they witnessed firsthand how ineffective the drug war is. And they were said that they're not trained for and are being completely ineffective at preventing the drug war. And he used an example of look at the prison system. Arguably one of the most secure places on earth are the American prison systems, and you will not find one that does not have drugs in it. And if you can't keep drugs out of prison, what hope do you have to keep drugs out of a supposedly free society? So this man was an ally for me in the movement because I used him to appeal to liberals and especially conservatives because first of all, here's a cop. So right away, they're primed to listen more. And him and there were former CIA people and everybody in the law enforcement organization where they were saying that they jailed kids good kids back in the 70s and 80s who were just smoking a joint, and they would end up in prison for 20 or 30 years, and they feel awful for it now. But that's another reason we shouldn't just shut people down and potential allies. And no, this does not mean that I'm saying let's go work with Nazis, but history shows us many examples. Sorry, just to finish this.
Go ahead.
Because this one's a popular one. They made a movie about it, The Best of Enemies, I think it was called, and it's based on a true story, and you can look it up and you can read about it. But Ann Water, who was a Black activist, very powerful in her community, was forced into a situation with the president of the local KKK, C.P. Ellis. And within 10 days of working at a charade together, they got to know each other on a personal level, connected as being working class and poor and struggling. And he turned into an activist that was helping her desegregate schools. He ripped up his KKK card publicly. And he said the reason he joined is because he felt a sense of community and belonging and some sort of power where mostly he's powerless in his life. So we're living in a propagandized society, and what we need is education, and we need to be willing to reach out to people. This doesn't mean embracing people mindlessly, but we should continue to educate because we are fighting misinformation.
That's because, and I think it's on purpose, because CIA infiltrate, especially we are the most infiltrated left easily. We the head of where the CIA focus on. There's been a lot, and that's why I always share the CIA tactics, because it's revolutionary indiscipline that causes that. The undiscipline of people who call themselves leftists in this country who fall for that shit. Like I cover how the Black Socialists of America was fear mongering over the shit I was saying, because I said I think we should work together as a working class coalition. Now, because I believe in coalition building. So I explained this countless times on the show, but since we're on the topic, if you are a white ally and you marching to end the police state with me, what else could I ask for? If you marching to get our community health care, these are some of the two biggest issues. You showing solidarity with my community. Even if you have some stupid ass opinions, I don't care. You are showing solidarity with us. Meanwhile, you guys are okay with people who support the party that expands the police state. You guys support the party that expands U.S. imperialism, fund multiple genocide, but you guys think you're on the right team. It's okay for Ro Khanna to be friends with Bill Kristol, but I want to work with my neighbor because I live in a red state, you idiots. I want to work with my neighbor to give us health care. So I look at the locations of these people who spread the red, brown lines conspiracy theory. The fact that Zoya even has to say that I don't agree with working with Neil, I'm tired of even have to say that shit. Why would that even be brought up? Why do we even have to fucking qualify the fact that we don't want to work with Nazis, but you guys don't have to qualify the fact that you guys work with fucking war criminals? As a black man, it should be obvious I don't want to work with Nazis. You Karen, so anyway, go, Kobe. You want to add something on there?
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's sometimes it just seems like they equate any conservative person to any degree as all being the most radical Nazi you could ever meet. Like not realizing there are degrees to this. Like there are socialists. There are socialists in other countries who support their war on drugs. There are socialists in other countries who are against abortion. Like these are like social problems that transcend Nazi and not Nazi. You know, it's way more complicated than that binary people look at it in. It's much more fluid. It's much more complicated. We're not saying work with Nazis. We're saying if your neighbor is a Trump supporter, but you guys want to protest what your homeowners association is doing, you'll agree on that one thing. You know, that's all it is.
Their characterization of conservatives and why they are so shocked and appalled when we say that we are willing to work for them shows their disconnect and shows their privilege as well. Because every time I see people do this, you know, it's why the TYT fans, the Sam Cedar crowd, they do this because they are the boutique left, where they are afraid of their working class neighbor, right? So I look at the locations of a lot of these people who are like, I will never ever work with a conservative. If you want to work with conservatives, you red brown. You know what I found? A lot of these people are from New York, they're in California. These motherfuckers be in deep blue areas and like in suburban blue ass areas, right? And then they be trying to tell me, a black man who lives in a deep red area, live in a red state, I should say, with a ton of rednecks surrounding me. You want to tell me that I can't form a coalition with my neighbors to give all of us health care? It's easy for you to say, you should never work with a conservative when you're in an area where 70% of the area is Democrats. If you live in a red area, you have to work with conservatives.
You have no choice. Democratically, you have no choice.
Sorry?
I said democratically, you have no choice just because you're outnumbered by all these people. You need to change minds.
So as someone who lives in Missouri, whenever I hear these red, brown lines bullshit, and whenever I see people fall for it, I'm like, you guys are in a bubble, because I can tell they never talk to conservative workers, which I sold cars in Kansas. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to blow him up, but there was a right-wing radio host that used to work with me, and we used to talk all the time. I used to talk shit about Trump with him. He used to laugh because he hated Obama and Biden. And I'm like, yeah, fuck Obama and Biden too. And I was like, why you like Trump though? And he used to laugh, and we have fun. And so they have this idea of like conservatives, because since they don't interact with these people, what do they get their view of conservatives on? They watch TYT, they watch Sam Cedar, Humanist Report, David Doe, and they always do these videos of like, oh, this is what Ben Shapiro said. This is what Janine Pirro said. And these videos gives people the false reality of what people actually think, right? So when you actually talk to people, you realize that the average person, a lot of times they just vote Republican because their dad voted Republican. Like they are victims of habit. Like there's a very small percent of people who are engaged constantly in the culture war. It's actually well, in my experience, that you don't see a ton of them. And when we had the Kellogg Union strike leader on during the Jones Strike Summit, he said a lot of people we organize with, they're conservatives and they're liberals, and they don't do litmus tests. They don't put people in line and say, oh, are you a liberal or you're a conservative? If you're a conservative, you can't be part of this group. They don't do that. And when you talk to workers, you realize that. So when people push the red, brown lines conspiracy theory, they tell on themselves to me. Because that when you push that shit, that means I'm like, oh, you never talk to a worker. Because we had union organizers that endorsed the idea you said it's red, brown. So that means Emma, they never, because she's the biggest advocate of the red, brown lines conspiracy theory. You never talk to workers, ever. You don't ever talk to union organizers to see what they're thinking. But I went on rant. What you guys thinking? And I know we go a little bit long.
I'm almost done. I'll just kind of maybe say the last statements, then I got to go.
I got another story I want to do. So you guys, I'm gonna give you guys a chance to plug anything. Zoe, how you doing on time?
I'm good.
All right, so I know we already went way over for you, Kobe. So I appreciate.
No, that's okay. Yeah,
I'm gonna give you last word on the topic in general. I saw a lot of people asking for your YouTube page, so plug that, and we definitely gotta have you back on. A lot of people want to see you back here. Based on the comments. So.
I always love talking about politics. But yeah, I mean, it's just for me. Like, I can understand where the sentiment comes from sometimes, just because I grew up in Montgomery County, Maryland. I grew up in a really blue area. When I turned 14 or 15, I moved to a more rural area, a much more conservative area. And I definitely saw a big amount of racism there. So I can understand where people's fears come from, but they also don't understand that's not everybody. That's not most people even. There's a very visceral group of conservatives who are really bigoted and really racist. And then it's a spectrum where people kind of have unpacked baggage of problematic things they believe they don't know properly, but they're not all the uniformly worst version of them. But just so my podcast, the Pro Peace Report, is on YouTube. Just the Pro Peace Report. You can look it up, or Nick can leave the link below or whatever. My Twitter, that's where I am most of the time these days, Pro Peace 97. I have a Substack, don't use it as much these days, so I'm not going to drop it until I start writing more. But yeah, I mean, I just think we need to focus on building working class coalitions and trying to oppose the two-party capitalist imperialist oligarchy. We can't just resign ourselves to the lesser of two evils. We can't just think of it as this immovable force forever that we just have to work ourselves around and just accept it as like a law of gravity or something like some people do. These are changeable structures. Like, if we just really try and organize the working class on the issues and then persuade them against the two-party system, we're already seeing progress on this. 60% of Americans want a third party. And, just teaching people about the military-industrial complex and the prison-industrial complex, both of them. Because as we've seen from this whole video today, the Biden administration is just as bad as the Trump administration on those things. These are bipartisan problems. But, yeah, thank you so much for having me on today. Happy birthday, Nick. Your birthday's tomorrow. Mine's today.
Kobe, happy birthday and good to see you.
Thank you so much. See you guys later.
To Kobe, subscribe to the Pro Peace Report on YouTube. It's his birthday. I'll show him some love. Thank you for joining. I already said my Saturday stream would be longer, so I don't want to keep my guests longer than they have planned. So Zoe, you just here by with me, huh? I have a few more stories. We see how I feel. I told you guys on my show, I'm just trying to see how many stories I can get through. I see my boy Jackson, man. He be streaming for like 4 hours. I'm like, man, Jackson stream 4 hours. I can at least do 2. I can at least do 2. But Zoya, I know I'm gonna share this other link that you sent me here soon. You have anything you want to comment on before we move on?
No, just in general, this is such an important conversation to have that we really can't effectively have on Twitter. That first of all, it is preposterous, and I just want to double down on this for anyone to be accusing Nick, a black man in America, of forming alliances with Nazis. It's disrespectful.
Bro, white women, sorry Zoya, but white progressives be saying Nick want to join with neo-Nazis. Like, check your fucking self, bro. Zoya, go ahead.
These are people that historically threatened his safety. He would not be forming alliances with Nazis. He just understands the socioeconomic dynamics of our society. And even people who support unions, you have to understand when you're forming a union in a workplace, you're forming alliances between Republicans and Democrats based on common struggle and common cause. You're not asking everybody, well, before you joined this union, who did you vote for? What do you think about abortion? No, you focus on the task at hand. That's how we get things done.
That well said. Sorry. But yeah, I told you guys there's ever since I got a platform, it's been a shock to the white saviors. Zoya, much love to her, man, because we've just been educating each other on this journey. Like, there's no point where Zoya like trying to get in front of me and be like, "Oh, you're fucking Nazi supremacist because of this." Like, that's so ridiculous. I'm trying to find it because I was having fun with some AOC fans. You guys want to see this one? I guess we have fun real quick before we get serious again. But look at this, because I was telling you guys about all the crazy AOC fans who got mad how I called her out on her imperialism. Check this one out. He was like, "You seething at the fact that she's more popular than you. You just hate her because she's cute. You hate her because she's popular. It's not because she's an imperialist." You see the mindset of these people? You see how they defend he been shifted away from the topic because AOC fans were trying to say, "Oh my God, you made up the fact that you said it." Now I immediately broke that down, and they immediately went with the smearing. Right? I'll try to find that white dude. Here he is. He tried to step to me. AOC fans was mad. You see what he said? See this white dude?
Oh boy.
This is AOC fans, guys. This is not liberals. This is AOC fans, Democratic Socialists, accusing a black man of wanting to ally with neo-Nazis to get Medicare for all, bro.
It's such dissonance. It's such just disgusting rhetoric coming from white people.
Look at all the white people who like it too.
Leftist?
Look at all the white people who liked it too. Look at all the white people who like it's okay to say a black dude wants to work with neo-Nazis to get Medicare for all. So that's why I was saying I love how you changed the subject, because at first, because I told you this is when I was roasting AOC, and she was like, and the AOC's like stance was like, she said there isn't a military solution.
Her record speaks for itself, and what is she doing to materially change things for any of us? Forget making it personal. What is she doing? What has she done? And I know everyone basically from that crowd leans on, well, there aren't enough of them to make a difference, and we just got to keep electing more. But you can't convince people to keep giving up their money for politicians that will not give them a voice. We elected these people to say our rhetoric, not to tell us that Biden is good.
And as you guys see, saying that that AOC said there's no military solution, that has nothing to do with the fact that Biden has armed Ukrainian rebels. Because as we explained, that is a common pro-NATO, pro-war talking point. Oh, we're not invading the country. We're just putting sanctions on them. Economic war is war. And AOC said he's in his right to pursue diplomatic responses to Russia aggression. That is what she said in the video you guys try to use to defend her. Russia aggression is them not invading. So why is she repeating false U.S. talking points? So once again, all I said, I accurately explained how just because she said there should be no military involvement does not mean she's rebuking the Biden agenda. So after I said that, That's when they had nothing. So then that's when you had all the AOC fans just in denial.
Nick,
Said,
can we
we're
share
not gonna share all this shit, but it's
can
funny.
we share that last link that I sent you, that tweet
Yeah.
that's talking about Biden's record? And just, realize that AOC is saying this is a progressive president. This is a guy that's doing good. This is my problem with her. I'm not anti, electing progressives or leftists inherently. I do not like them gaslighting us and saying that this list of things are progressive.
Is this the right one? This one right here?
Let me see.
Can you see it?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's a long list of what he's done so far in office.
I love this. Is a good account, by the way. This one holding Biden accountable. They're doing what the boutique left refused to do. They not like when we went over that horrific AOC interview. Should we watch it again? It's been a while. I feel like maybe we should. But when you see those interviews, when I said what she's not saying is so loud. Every interview, when we go through this list, every single chance you get to speak to the public, you should be finding a way to bring these things up. You should find a way, no matter what question. I can do it. I promise you. I promise. If you ask me any question about Biden, I can find a way to bring up the airstrikes, the sanctions and the genocide. But Zoe, I think you're about to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, people that actually do know me, I was boosting candidates for a good 2 years. So I'm not some extremist that's like anti-electoral, but I'm a reasonable person that looks at actions. And unfortunately, AOC and the squad, their actions in office have had devastating consequences for the current campaign of actual activists. And I talked to these candidates, and they're good candidates. Jason Call, Angelica Duenas, Sherwin, so many of them that come from activist backgrounds, that have been out there protesting, that have moved things and gone things done for us. Now they're taking the heat for their actions, and people no longer want to donate or support. So you can thank AOC for that. It's not me. It's not because of what a nobody, am saying on Nick's podcast. That is the reality of what's happening.
On the money, Zoya. And that's exactly what I said when Nina lost. I remember I was on Jimmy's show, and I said the reason why Nina lost is because she had a low voter turnout. The reason why you get low voter turnout is why? Because you don't have on-the-group activists knocking on doors. You don't have enough phone banking. You don't have enough activists to overcome the corporate cash disadvantage that you should know you're gonna have.
I absolutely agree with you. One note there is it was a special election, and in general, in special elections, there is low voter turnout, but that doesn't negate anything you just said, because the enthusiasm for her was gone. She was writing access for healthcare. She was shaking hands with Bakari and saying he's her friend. These are people that have opposed the movement for years and come at us and try to, they support Clinton. They support Clinton politics. So I understand that you're trying to win, but you neglected your base and you started using rhetoric that we've been opposing for years. And that hurt. That actually hurt, because we needed the firebrand, Nina, that called out the establishment, that said Biden is, a half bowl of shit. We need politicians to be held accountable. And unfortunately, in campaigns, they're doing all of this strategizing and trying to win over Democrats while neglecting the fact that independents are the largest voting bloc, and the only one larger is non-voters. And you can motivate people to go to the polls. Yes, it's work, but we would be out there doing that work for you if you just stayed on message.
Yep, if you didn't literally say you was going to disappoint us on the campaign, dumbest shit I ever seen. But this analysis that you heard from Zoya, straight on the money. This is exactly why the progressives and Congress, why the Justice Democrats are so dangerous. And this is not the analysis you will ever see on like the majority report, because Sam Cedar debated when he debated Jackson. One thing that was very telling was when Jackson was bringing up the squad and how you abandoned us, Cedar and Igma mocked him as like, oh, you just sound like a scorned lover. Oh, you sound like a scorned lover. That's their analysis of the progressives taking money from the working class and betraying us. That we sound like scorned lovers. Compare that to the analysis that you just got from Zoya. You guys see the difference?
I see someone in the chat saying, "Who is this woman? I don't believe her." Well, it's super easy. You can find me on Twitter, Zoya is Love, and go through my Twitter history, and you'll see that I was boosting candidates long after people even lost the appetite for them. As a matter of
I know Zoya. So.
And the reason we stopped doing these boosts is because the enthusiasm is gone, and I can't blame a single person for losing enthusiasm, because these politicians are gaslighting us to our faces. We donated money we did not have. We took time off work. Some people gave up their jobs to get out there and fight for them because we expected them to fight for us. And now you think we're the problem when we want to hold them accountable? We are not the problem. We want change. We want the same policies that you want, but we are calling out the facts as we see them to hold politicians' feet to the fire.
Well said. Well said. And Zoe's been at this for a long time. Like I said, she taught me a lot. That's why I love having you on the show. This is fun. This is fun. So what else? Oh yeah, I guess we didn't go through the tweet. Let me pull that back up. And I guess I can get some comments. I have another fun story I wanted to do. More of a lighthearted, fun story.
But I just want to go over Biden's record here, which this is not all of it, but just for people to come to terms with AOC saying that this is the most progressive president ever, while this is reality.
Yeah, I'll just scroll. I'll let you present it if you want to. Do you want to present it?
Sure, I'll just read the highlights. So airstrikes in Syria, because of crippling U.S. sanctions, 23 million of 39 million Afghans not having enough food to eat. Killing 10 people in a drone strike in Afghanistan, approving 650 million potential air-to-air missile deal for Saudi Arabia, which when Trump was going to do it was a scandal, but Biden doing it is just fine, which is exactly what we were afraid of, by the way. Biden signing a 768 billion defense budget, 37 billion more than that of last year. Choosing Rahm Emanuel as the U.S. ambassador to Japan, not sanctioning MBS, approving the sale of 735 million in precision-guided weapons to Israel, reaffirming the United States position to an international criminal court in investigation into possible war crimes in the Palestinian territories, the Biden administration opposing the resolution blocking weapon sales to Saudi Arabia, spending more on Israel than climate change, continuing to support the Saudi blockade in Yemen, where people are dying there in Yemen, continuing the Trump Pentagon's policy of embarrassing landmines, continuing a Trump policy that boosted armed drone exports, continuing to support a coup in Venezuela, conditions in Guantanamo Bay being worse now than they were ever under Trump, mass deportations of Haitians, using Title 42 to expel 690,000 people, holding over 22,000 people in jails run by ICE, 7,000 more than what the Trump and his administration held when they were in office. U.S. deportations of children increasing by 30% in the first year. Reopening previously closed facilities at the southern border. Extending the Trump-era Title 42 program.
You just keep going.
Yeah, it's almost there, but it's...
Go ahead. I was just laughing. Go ahead.
Expels people seeking asylum without due process. Continuing Trump-era remain in Mexico policy and expanding it past the constraints of a court order, which, by the way, is even more dangerous in a pandemic. The DOJ pulling out of negotiations to financially compensate families separated by Trump administration. Arguing in federal court that migrant facilities separated at the border under the Trump administration don't deserve compensation. The Border Patrol Horse Unit continuing to detain immigrants out of prison in Louisiana that's been described by government as investigators as having a culture and conditions that can lead to abuse, mistreatment, and discrimination. Considering filing gaps in the U.S.-Mexico border wall, filling gaps.
I think they moved forward on this too. I don't know. Maybe I should dig that up. But go ahead, Zoya.
Kamala Harris to migrants, do not come. We will enforce our laws and secure our borders. I mean, if you were reading this without prejudice, you would think this is a Republican. The number of
we can keep going all day. Like there's I'm gonna end it there, but you guys get it right. And I'm glad that you flagged this. Now, the reason I want to say this because it keeps going. How many are there? Because I cut it off at 11.
Yeah,
I don't have any numbers.
There's still a lot.
I just want to let you guys know we read 11. There are 32 of those. all well sorted out. So whenever I see people, and I see progressives say this all the time, they'll say one of the reasons why the Biden administration is failing is because Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. I explained this on one of my last fireside chats. Why are you guys talking about the legislative branch when you analyzing the actions of Joe Biden? He's in charge. He's the commander in chief. He's in charge of the executive branch. When you look at everything that he is in charge of, everything that his power goes to, he is one of the worst presidents of all time because the executive branch has been on a rampage of crimes against humanity. That has everything that you read here has nothing to do with Kristen Sinema or Joe Manchin. So stop repeating the rotating villain bullshit. You can blame them for shit not getting done in the legislative branch, but will people stop bringing them up whenever Biden is being criticized? Biden deserves to go down as one of the worst of all time. Just going through that list. But sorry, Zoya, do you have any other thoughts?
Just from talking to people, I know a lot of people from different factions of the left, I guess. Whoa. And a lot of them were formerly liberals or conservatives, and the Bernie movement brought them on board with leftist policies, and now they're all in, which is great. And of course, that's wonderful, and we want people to come to the left movement and support us. But I would ask that when you do that, leave your liberal and conservative thinking at the door and have some humility. You just got here. I've been at this for decades. You guys are proposing ideas we've already tried 20 years ago. We're not giving up on them because we're dreamers or unrealistic. We've tried this over and over. We followed all the rules. We did everything that we were told, and we are losing people in our communities. You cannot expect us to pretend that everything is fine. We are not going to go along to get along because we're not politicians. We have the freedom to speak out unfiltered, and we have every right to demand change in our communities.
That's a mic drop. That's a mic drop. I couldn't explain it better myself. Like I literally just released a video explaining why I go after progressives, and I explained it during conversation with Max, Jimmy, why I explained it, supporting to go after them because they really are extremely counter-revolutionary. And Zoya essentially broke it down in a way probably better than I have. I want to move on to the story, and then we can read some chats to wrap up. We talk about a lot of deep shit. I like to have fun with our audience as well. I want to cover this story. Hold on, let me get the link up. So we have been accurately claiming that when you look at blue MAGA and red MAGA, I love that. Like our circle was like one of the first people. Like I remember me and my friend Lauren, like, and you were part of this was Zoe. We was immediately pushing out blue MAGA as a term because I was like, bro, I want you guys to understand it's the same fucking thing. And these people, just like conservatives, liberals, just like conservatives, being capitalists, have no idea what Marxism is, no idea what socialism is. So we have Beto O'Rourke, Beto running in Texas, despite the fact that he said he's going to take everyone's guns. And he running a statewide race in Texas. What a grift! What a grift! And I eat my words if I'm wrong here, but he's not going to win. Like there's no bigger grift than DCCC and these people who run these elections. He's running on taking people's guns in Texas, where there are people who are like liberals and leftists who are in Texas like, no, I'm actually very pro-gun. So who are you appealing to? And when I show you this story, and Zoe, feel free to interrupt me at any time, but when I show you this tweet from Beto, ask yourself, who is he appealing to? Who is he appealing to? Like, who did this win you this race? And as we all know, Democrats don't really give a fuck about winning. You got a campaign manager who's going to make $100K a year. You're going to raise a ton of money for your campaign. You're going to pay yourself a lot of money. Your staffers going to get a lot of money. If you lose, you may get an MSNBC contract. It's not about winning. So when Beto run again, the liberals, they love it. You know why they love it? Because this is just another career opportunity for them. So the blue checks, they love it. But anyway, I'm prefacing the story way too much now. Let's see what is the messaging that's coming from Beto heading into his election here. Check this out. Showing that just like conservatives, just like MAGA, liberals have no idea what socialism is. This is his message. He thinks he's going to win over conservative minds in Texas. Abbott is a corrupt socialist. He encouraged his corporate buddies to make obscene profits during the grid failure and forced us to pay for the windfall and higher utility bills. He privatized the gains in a few and socialized the losses to every single ratepayer in Texas.
Oh, Lord.
Guys, I have seen a lot of dumb conservatives say shit about socialism. This ranks up there with like anything you would hear from Candace Owens, anything you would hear from Janine Pirro, anything you would hear from the right-wing culture war army about socialism. This is the same level of analysis. So according to Beto, when you privatize industry, when you privatize a very important public industry, that's socialism. I love it when, once again, I'm an unapologetic Marxist, right? I love it when you have people who, they always complain about the evils of socialism, but why are they doing it? They essentially just explaining capitalism. So do you guys want to know the reality of the situation? Anyone who was actually paying, damn, I still see people going. So obviously you got dragged by people who are rationally minded. But look at this, despite the drag, and I know they have bots, I know they do. But that's still 28,000. That's still a fucking lot, man. I don't care. There's liberals that see this shit and like, love this messaging. Killing it. So the reality of the situation, I would love to get Zoya's thoughts, if you have any thoughts. Anyone know what the fucking Republicans was doing in Texas? Beto, you idiot. and I saw liberals like, hell yeah, this is the messaging you need in Texas. Expose the Republicans as socialists. Y'all people who think that socialism is when the government do stuff for you too. That's not government either. That's not socialism either. You're talking about worker power, the power of the proletariat, seizing the means of production. So they took what should be a public utility from anyone, even if you're even social democrats believe in that, right? Like even people who to my right, they even believe in that, right? I don't know, maybe I might be misstating, but even we believe, even like the social dems believe in nationalizing critical public utilities. But you see what liberals think socialism is? I'm trying to find the important part here. Damn.
And the new infrastructure bill is going to privatize our roads, and they're not going to be focused on repairing collapsing infrastructure. They're going to be putting in toll roads.
I think maybe I should just read the whole article. I'm trying to find the part I read earlier. A lot of this is filler. So they'll explain the situation. Maybe I should cover it. I want to make the story go a little faster though. But as you know, pretty much they just explain the situation where Texas had the power grid failure. And they explain what actually happened in privatization. So whenever you have capitalists like spell out the dystopian hellscape that is communism and socialism, that's our country. That's capitalism. Whenever you see them like, oh my God, food banks in socialist countries. Meanwhile, last year there was a food bank that lasted. People was in line for hours under the Texas food banks. So what they did, Texas, I'm gonna sum this up in a nutshell because I can't find anything that really wraps it up. So in a nutshell, Texas separated itself from the national energy grid and sold out portions to private industry. So that's why a lot of these people dodged regulations because they did this. A lot of the regulations that would have prevented the power grid from failing. So this was a problem that was literally decades in the making because Texas, as we know, is a hot state. It's pretty hot. So they don't go through a lot of these crazy blizzards that they went through, right? But because of the climate change crisis getting worse, they got a weather event that they would not prepare for, and they exposed the privatized energy grid as being inefficient. So that's what really happens. I shouldn't even have to explain this, why that's ridiculous. But this example number 1002 of why liberals, just like MAGA, don't have any idea, and they are deeply intellectually dishonest and uncurious. Like, this is very basic shit. Anyway, Zoe, do you have anything to add?
Well, this is privatization is exactly the reason that hospitals are overcrowded. Now, they gave everybody a good scapegoat, blamed the unvaccinated, but our hospitals have been insufficient for decades because they went private. They started merging hospitals and closing hospitals in rural areas. And that was an ongoing issue. And the epidemic just pushed it to a breaking point and exposed it. But they're giving you a nice scapegoat. I just want to advise people, if you're letting the establishment off the hook for something without doing the research and looking up at where the root causes of the problem are, then you're really going against your own interests. Stop watching mainstream media. Look things up.
I saw this exchange earlier. I thought it was funny. Grady, my boy, I always share his tweets on here. But he responded, conservative explanation of socialism. This is pretty funny meme. You guys see it. And then this liberal was like, Beto is conservative? Yes, very much so. Anyway, I just thought that was funny. I saw that earlier when I was scrolling through Twitter. Yes, for the right wingers who are confused about the Overton window and how things work, liberals are conservatives. The very they believe in free market, giant states with giant police budgets and giant military budgets because they believe in a strong national defense. This is the ideology of neoliberalism. They also believe in a robust foreign policy that goes for the interests of the country. They believe in a strong national security state. That's neoliberalism. That's what it is. Like, that's by definition right wing. That's by definition. From where I stand, you can't even consider yourself a leftist if you're not anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, right? So Beto is a conservative. At least you guys understand how I see the Overton window, and I don't judge it based on America where this shit is fucking broken. You guys use a country that has student loan debt and no healthcare as your arbiters of the Overton window. America is a far right country. When you look at countries like Germany and the UK, you can say they're centrist or central right at best. Then you look at the Norwegian countries, they are more like social democrat, which I would say is center left. Then you got the DPRK in Cuba who are left than that. You got China that's like market socialism. I would say that's to the right of that. I'm still learning too. I'm still learning. That's my explanation of it. Maybe you guys can correct me. Like I said, I'm still learning too. What do you guys think? Maybe we should read some comments. Because I think, do I have any stories left? This is a pretty good stream. We can read some more comments. Yeah, I think we can wrap.
So just another thing on that, capitalism rewards unethical behavior. That's why we are where we are. But since that's not enough to convince some people, especially if you got any right-leaning people watching, the way that translates into our daily lives is that corporations can use up resources, natural resources like water, and pollute the environment, and they get subsidized by the government while doing that. And then you are charged for the cleanup costs. So you are paying these corporations twice. It is no accident that they have these massive profits, and it's not because they're geniuses. They are being paid twice by you. Money's going from the government, and then you're being taxed for their own cleanup.
Oh, this is a good. Let's see if I can find this. I just saw this. That comment was a while ago. Let's see if I can pull that story up. You guys know Quaker Anarchist. Shout out to her. Great mutual aid leftist leader. Where's that comment? I can't put. I'm trying to find it. Let's see. This is okay. Say we can't even get 2 recent Black people's murders investigated. PM me that Quaker. I might cover it. I can't find a comment. I mean, I can't click the link on here. I'll tell you. I'm glad you guys have patience because you guys know I'm like the only one fucking producing these shows. So all the other big shows that you guys watch, they have producers and shit. I'm doing this on my own, so please be patient with me. Please be patient. Damn, there's so many good comments in here. Do you have anything else that you want to wrap up regarding the? Because it's about 2 hours. I think we can start the wrapping up process. Do you have anything else that you wanted to bring up? Any other links you want to share, Zoya?
I sent you a link earlier, but basically I'll just sum it up that another wonderful thing Biden's doing, his Forest Service just put forth a plan to destroy 3/4 of old growth protected area of Pisgah National Forest. And these old growth forests act as a critically important carbon sink, storing carbon that would otherwise be released into the atmosphere. This is the science president over here, acting against what all scientists agree we need for the climate emergency.
And that's that's the same person that Emma was like, we gotta vote for him because he's the climate president. and people still believe he believes in science. Here it is. I found it. This is a good. We can wrap on this story. This is a good story to do. So as I said before, the Democratic Party is where movements go to die. You had Black Lives Matter, despite the whole. We just covered this whole. We did a whole 2-hour stream talking about Biden's police state and Black Lives Matter cheering him on, despite that he ran to the right of Trump. This is just revolutionary undisciplined I see from people who think they're anti-establishment. Because you guys know the real Black Lives Matter, like the people who was in Ferguson, they got killed. Like the real ones kicked out of the movement. Now it's been infiltrated by shit libs. I'm sorry to tell you guys. But when I saw you guys root for Joe Biden, I'm like, I'm done. And honestly, I could have been done way before that, but I gave a lot of leniency to Black Lives Matter. Probably way more than I probably should. But that was when I was done. That was when I was like, all right, you guys are being grifters, honestly, because a lot of people on top on Black Lives Matter made a lot of money on this. So now, because the definition of grifter is saying shit you don't believe in. So when you guys endorse the guy who wrote the fucking crime bill, that doesn't make sense. I feel like you guys are doing it so you guys can stay within the positive graces of the Democratic Party, which a lot of you guys are in. Because now you guys are in the club. Like the original founder, she now had like a mansion or some shit. I don't know her name. But anyway, to get back to the story, the point is the Democratic Party is where movements go to die. So the same way Barack Obama killed the anti-war movement, the same way that Joe Biden killed the Me Too movement, we've seen Joe Biden kill the immigration movement and also killing the climate justice movement. So all these climate activists that went hard for Joe Biden, that canvassed for him in Georgia, I better see all you people. I better see this story on top of all y'all timelines. Because honestly, as someone who didn't vote for him, this is not on me. As someone who didn't yell at activists who refused, like I was one of the many who was yelled at because I refused to vote for Jim Crow Joe because, oh my God, I can't believe you don't care about the climate crisis. I'm looking at you, Noam Chomsky. Sorry. God damn, he disappointed me so much over the last few years. But anyway, this is the story that Zoya shared. I appreciate you sharing this with us. Let's go into the actual article. Plan to quadruple logging in U.S. most popular forest months after Biden COP26 reforestation pledge. So I think that's the pledge you say you broke, right? And he quadrupling logging. And you pretty much explained it. This is pretty much the source. I didn't read as much into it, so I can't do a good breakdown. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I didn't read this article yet. So Zoya did a good job explaining. Any other details that you want to add to that story? Or do you want to read through it? What's your thoughts, Zoya?
No, just in wrapping it up, from your talking, because I hear your critics and what they really neglect to understand that what they're hearing is pain. It's pain. We are being betrayed. People we were hoping would shift things for our communities, like Nina, like AOC. It's pain that they caused us by now telling us that these people we know are doing harm are actually our friends and allies and doing a great job. So this isn't because we're bad faith actors. No one more than us would have loved to see AOC succeed, or give us something substantive, or call out this administration, something, anything. We would be the first to give them credit.
Yeah, well said. And they try their best. They try their best to do everything they can not to humanize the people that are upset at their favorite politicians. Instead of being a poor working class Black person who is hurt because the people I invested in betrayed me, these people categorize me as, oh, he's the Jimmy Dore guy. You think that now? You think that, like the way that Sam Cedar, he was like Jackson Hinkle, he's just some Jimmy Dore fan. You guys think this is not on purpose? That's a dehumanization effort so they can erase the pain. Like the same people who smear me, they know that I quit my job and came for Bernie. They would never tell people that while they criticize me because that humanizes me. Then they would ask questions like, oh, why did a guy who went from canvassing for Bernie, how did he go from that to distrusting the guy? So you can't do that. And I'm using me as an example, but you see this all over. The CIA left infiltration tactics, and liberals use it too. Conservatives use it too. They just dehumanize you so they don't have to give legitimacy to your concerns. Oh, he's red, brown lions. Oh, he's some Black guy who for some reason want to prop up Nazis. Like it doesn't even have to make sense. As long as they can just say something that's snappy, that goes well in the little group chats. They just say it. So, but it's okay because we building a real class conscious movement here, right?
And also, this network is going to be doing a third-party summit soon.
Yeah, that's going to be good.
So we're bringing together, well, you guys are bringing together I just dropped some names off third-party candidates and other people who hopefully will be able to make it, who ran third-party, what were their successes, failures, because I see people in comments saying, okay, enough, like, let's get to the solutions. But guys, this type of education is really valuable, and we have to first get the messaging out there. But what this network is doing that I absolutely love, adore, and I'm so grateful for, they actually are trying to transfer these ideas into actions. So stay tuned, but at the same
Yeah, we
time,
got big things planned. We got
get-
big things planned.
get involved in your own communities. Don't wait for leaders or podcasters or anyone else. You can get involved right now. You can get involved in mutual aid, in community gardens, in trying to file a bail initiative, go to a city council hearing. You can start making change in multiple ways. You don't need anybody else to tell you how. Just start looking up things going on locally.
Well said. Well said. Be the change you want to see, man. And when people ask me like, "What's your solution?" Because I get that all the time. Because we talk about pretty depressing shit on the show, and honestly, my answer is not as sexy as you guys used to seeing. All I do is vote harder. All I do is believe in the Justice Democrats. That's very comforting, actually, to a lot of people. That's why it sells. But my answer to your guys' question of what should we do is not as sexy. Because my answer to that is let's start building community. Let's start propping up mutual aid more. Let's start building a system, a horizontal system that is maintained by the power of mutual aid and community building to start the movement in which we need to separate ourselves from capital and then to start challenging power so we can get stuff done. That answer is not sexy, especially to suburbanites, especially to the people who they don't really want to see the system crash. Because when we talk about the problems that we went through in this live stream, when we tell you that the Democratic Party is the party police state, this obviously doesn't mean that the Republicans going to stop it. So people get depressed and like, all right, what the options? What do we have? What solutions do you have? The only way we can even stop this is the complete seizure and stoppage of the system to it forced to change. Now, if you're privileged, you don't want that. You don't want society to stop because you're doing good. You're a streamer who make a fucking $1 million a year. Why will you want society to stop? It's an uncomfortable message. But if you guys really want to stop the ICE detention centers, if you guys really want to stop the prison industrial complex, if you guys really want to end the wars, do you guys think that's going to happen in the ballot box? Do you really want to change that? If the answer to that is yes, then can we get serious? Because a lot of people talk about ending U.S. imperialism, but if you're not talking about the things we're talking about, community building and actually destroying the system, that's the only way that will make that happen. Then I guess you're just saying it for clout. Now I can't come to any other conclusion than you virtual signaling when you say you want to end the U.S. empire, but the only thing you want to end U.S. imperialism, you want to end the wars, you want to end the prison industrial complex, but you're only talking about electoral politics. Like that makes me seem like you're not really serious about that. You just want to talk about it. That's to me. Like, and that's my criticism of Noam Chomsky. Like, yeah, Noam, you do a good job breaking down this damn system, but then you tell us to vote for Jim Crow Joe, who made the climate crisis worse. You was having a conversation with Breonna Joy Gray, where you was like, yeah, of course we vote for Biden because we want to get climate change done. He's been worse. I'm not saying that Trump is better because because he wants to be better, but I'm talking about like when you look at the amount of fracking, the fact that he funded the military more, the fact that he have more offshore drilling permits on public land, bro, these are factual points, the point that he's been worse. So yeah, Noam, you can do a great breakdown on the system why it's bad. But man, that's virtue signaling. If you keep offering people solutions, that is bullshit. And Noam is rich. Noam was rich. He got rich off of it. And I don't want to make this a diss track because the reason why I feel scorned is just the same way I feel scorned because of AOC and Bernie. I learned a lot from Noam. I think he's great on a lot of issues. So I don't want to make it a complete diss track. But it's like that kind of shit. That's why I had to jump on YouTube. That's the only reason I did this shit. I'm like, man, we need people to counteract this shit. Something. Fuck. Anyway, I'm just writing now. Anything else, Zoya?
Yeah, I'm also seeing people in comments, and this is a common thing. People are saying like voting is pointless and things like that. Unfortunately, while we're still in this system, just like we're abolitionists, but we push for certain reforms while we're still stuck with dealing with the system, like ending cash bail. That's a reform to the system, but it creates material change in people's lives. but there's nothing wrong with fighting on all fronts. There is an inside-outside strategy, and there's merit in a lot of different approaches. So we don't have to have this energy draining competition of which path we need to choose. There are people who will do direct action. There are people who will go protest. There are people that will just grow food for their community. I make a food all the time for people who get COVID and just drop it off on their doorsteps. There's a lot of different things that you can be doing. And it doesn't make you better or worse or right or wrong, depending on which path you choose. And there's right now some debate happening between a state-by-state approach to Medicare for all versus a national approach. And the argument made is that if we're pushing a state-by-state approach, then that means we're giving up on national. And I have to disagree historically on this, because this is exactly what we did with marijuana. We were going state by state legalizing. We're still doing that. You see how many states have shifted, how many have legalized at least medicinal, how many have legalized fully recreational, and we are close to legalizing it nationally. Ironically, GOP is the one that put a bill on the floor to legalize it nationally. So, but it does work to build pressure to legalize where you can, whether it's just in your city, in your state, you build that pressure. And activists fighting each other and having these where you can, whether it's just in your city, in your state, you build that pressure. And activists fighting each other. Sorry, I started hearing myself.
I don't know if CJ joined on purpose, but I'm glad to see him.
Hi. He's awesome. I love CJ. CJ's
yes, sorry. I thought I was hearing your sound in my ears, and I just realized no, it was the TV. I was hearing the sound. So that's I had it up. Let me turn it off. Yeah, no, I wanted to catch the stream. I've been watching the stream, and I wanted to catch it before it went off to let everybody know I'm going to be streaming after this.
Oh, cool.
I want to talk about your video, Nick, about Sam Cedar. I'm going to talk about a little bit about that, but I'm using that to kind of talk about we're seeing the old left crumble and die, and the new left is here to replace it. So that's sort of what the next live stream is going to be about, and I just wanted to shout that out to everybody before. Absolutely. I'll put the link in the DM, Nick, so you can jump on. But I'll give you a little break, so I'll wait till 3. I'll start at 3 just so you can eat or something like that.
So yeah, I didn't know.
No. I just watching yours. Then I'm like, you know what? I don't got nothing to do. The girls, my my wife and my 2 daughters are gone. Let me do something. So just shouting that out. I'm gonna let you go ahead and end, but just wanted to shout that out. I'm gonna be coming up at 3. We just make it 3 o'clock.
CJ, I just want to thank you for all the work you do out there, because there's a lot of demands for ideas to turn into action, and I feel like you're really on the forefront of that, putting together these summits and getting people together to have these conversations and ideas and strategies on how to organize.
Absolutely, and thank you for all the work you do also in the tags. We've been seeing the tags for this upcoming summit, and I just wanted to clarify. I was doing the summit, I because we didn't talk about it as a group. I didn't. I didn't want to push it on the group. If we do decide to do it as a group, that's fine too. But I didn't want you to think that Nick, I was trying to push it on.
I saw the tweet. I was all hell yeah. I was like hell yeah.
Yeah. So absolutely.
We didn't talk about it as a group yet, but I was like hell yeah. That's dope.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. Again, thank you for all the work you do. All those. The things that you retweet and I retweet of you already know. So I'm going to pop back out just so I can prepare for the show, but I'll see everybody at 3, and I'll see you, Nick. If you join at 3, I'll post it in a DM. All right.
I may join a little bit late, but I just got to eat, recharge my battery.
Yeah, absolutely. You've been streaming already for like 2 hours. So
yeah. So, and then you guys definitely see more Zoya. You pretty free on Saturday, so I might have to.
Zoya, we're always free to join. Anyway, always welcome to join. So I'll pop back out, but everybody check in with us at 3 o'clock.
Yeah. So
all right.
Bye, CJ.
I told you guys, man. I see a lot of people propping Zoya up in the chat. I told you I learned a lot from Zoya. I was in our meeting, just like, damn, you got to teach me a ton of shit. But anyway, I think we wrap up now because I got prepared for CJ stream. Like I said, I'm gonna be chilling. I'm gonna let him break down. I already did my breakdown. But it's Saturday. I'm watching the fights tonight. But other than that, it's after this stream, I'm chilling. So I think I hang out with my revolutionary blackout brother CJ.
Let me
any last words? Yep.
Yeah, let me drop one more fact. Just someone in the comments said it should be paper ballots with ID with a serial number to be traced or something. I just want Americans to know that in other countries like Australia, you don't need anything except your ID to vote. They make voting easy.
Yep.
And the latest Voting Rights Act is actually it's called Voting Rights Act.
Oh my God! Don't get me started. So we do. I actually have a segment planned for that. Damn, maybe I should save it. I gotta have you on because I literally don't have time. But I actually have a segment I was gonna do on that because I was about to attack the whole vote. People, I'm freaking out, guys. I'm gonna do a little spoiler, and I don't want. I'm sorry, I cut you off, Zoe. I want you to talk about it too. So just a spoiler to a segment I'll probably do later because we talked about the black activists that protested Biden's speech because he wasn't giving them voter rights. And guys, as a black activist who follow the demands of the Black Panthers and our revolutionary leaders, I am seeing black activists fight their fucking life or death for voting rights because it's named after John Lewis. So we got all these things as a black community we could be fucking advocating for, and you guys are fighting for the right to vote for Democrats. So people are like, oh my God, we gotta get voting rights. Democrats are not giving us voting rights. And I'm like, guys, you guys know that's the marketing for the bill, right? Who do you vote for last election? I voted for Joe Biden. Okay, what voting rights are you talking about? What are you talking about? Go ahead. The next time you see people talking about voting rights, just ask them, what are you talking about? A lot of them haven't read the bill. They have no idea. This Freedom to Vote Act, this fucking Freedom Democracy Act, this shit fucking destroys third parties. So if you have a pro-democracy bill that destroys third parties, what are you doing? You're fighting for the right to vote for either the Republican or the Democratic Party. So you guys are spending so much energy just for the right to vote for Democrats, to make it easier to vote for Democrats. Are you guys out of your mind? But anyway, that's my rant. Zoe, what's your thoughts?
I was going to say exactly what you're saying, that it basically stifles third parties and any opposition to the duopoly. And if we were really pushing for voting rights, we'd make voting easier and we'd give parties equal access. In New Zealand, they have multiple parties, and whatever voter share each party gets, that's how much representation they get in the government. So they get multiple representation and different points of views and perspectives into government. But you're hungry, Nick, and I want to make sure you go eat. This is now as a mom, not an activist.
Yeah, this is the last thing I'll share. I always like to back up what I say. So I'll share this a few times, but just for new viewers, I always want to show you guys what the hell they're not telling you. And you see progressives push for this too. Third parties may disappear from ballot under Freedom to Vote Act provision. And just to sum it up in a nutshell, but pretty much they're stripping the funding for the public funding of elections. They're pretty much pulling that. And then they raise the requirement you need to be put on the ballot on top of that. So this will effectively, third parties already, as it is right now, have a hard enough time to get on the ballot. So now they're raising the fundraising and pulling public funding. So this will destroy third parties. So I quite literally see people who advocate for voting for third parties who would then advocate for voting rights. What are you doing? Sorry, I'll wrap it up there because I might join CJ soon. Thanks for joining me, Zoya. This was a long stream.
Thanks for having me on. We could talk forever.
Yeah, I know. Zoya's a friend of mine. We've been friends for a while, so these Saturdays I would love to have you on when you're free. I don't want to exhaust you, but these are good chats. So make sure you guys check out Zoya. That's her Twitter there. Zoya is love. I got the description. I kind of threw the live stream together fast, but I'll put all the information in afterwards. So I hope you guys enjoy the stream. This is Nick, SocialistMMA. We sign out. Check out CJ's live stream later on today, guys. Actually, literally 30 minutes. So go ahead, Zoya. Any last word you have?
I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. And one thing I want to leave everybody with is I want to send everybody love. I know we talk about a lot of depressing things and highlighting things, but in reality, I'm a humanitarian and I care about everyone's struggle, including the people that disagree with me. Fight for someone you don't know. That resonated with me during the campaign. So I know everybody's struggling and people tend to lash out at each other. But just remember what we are fighting for. And the core of leftism is humanitarianism.
That's a beautiful way to end the stream. Thank you, Zoya. Have a great weekend, guys. Check out me and CJ here in the next hour or so. Take care.